The story begins with a tired young man who decided to return home early. He got on his bike and hurried home to get his homework done. Suddenly, a van emerged from around the corner and rushed towards the hero at full speed. The young man did not have time to leave the roadway and ended up under the wheels of this van. He flew off the bike instantly, and the entire road was covered in his blood. The van driver told Mr. Lin that the mission was completed and wanted to get his money for it. He couldn't understand why Mr. Lin spent $1 million to buy this guy's life. Suddenly, the hero's body began to glow, and it was as if some foreign energy entered his body. The young man gradually came to his senses and miraculously managed to avoid a catastrophic incident. He saw a case of a young man being humiliated at school because he brought only 30 marks, and not as expected by those around him. From the conversation between the offenders, it became clear that the main character's name was Lin Yun. Lin Yun was beaten because he didn't look the way he should in normal society. The main character remembered the faces of his offenders, who had offended him more than once. Young people constantly beat him up, asking him to look at himself and his face, considering him fat. Lin Yun felt hurt that because of his appearance, he wasn't even called by his name, but just by a nickname. Lin Yun's new soul had cultivated medical arts to the catastrophe-splitting stage in the past. Lin escaped the disaster, but as a result, a new consciousness came to this planet and entered his body. He tried to use the chi energy he had accumulated to heal the body. The attempt was unsuccessful, because the meridians of this offspring were destroyed. At such a young age, he has so many enemies, and he will definitely not live to be 20. The main character got to his feet and gradually came to his senses. Even though he has taken over this body, he still needs to absorb the chi and refine it. He promised the owner of the body that he would take revenge on everyone for his grievances. He activated the chi energy, but even after an hour it did not produce any results. The new Ling Yun didn't understand why there was no necessary chi energy in this area. He realized that now he would have to drag this useless body around in order to live on. At worst, he will have to cultivate everything all over again. Ling Yun was a figure that no one dared to mess with in the almighty cultivation world. He perceives the current circumstances as a trifle that cannot stop him. Lin walked some distance and looked at the reflection in the river to see his body for the first time. He decided to take the opportunity to take a bath to wash the blood and dirt off his body. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a car that parked near the beach. A beautiful girl got out of the car, clearly frightened by something. She carelessly stumbled on the shore and flew into the water. Lin Yun managed to grab her hand before the girl sank to the bottom. He pulled the victim out of the water and pressed her to his chest. Looking at the guy's appearance, the girl thought that he was harassing her and pushed him away. For a long time she tried to break free from his hands, but something seemed to pull Lena towards her. The young man calmed the girl down and explained to her that he did not wish her any harm. Luckily, she understood everything correctly, and suggested going ashore to discuss the incident. Lin Yun picked up the frightened woman in his arms and carried her to the dry shore where his things were. He himself decided to stay in the water so that the girl would not be frightened again by his presence and appearance. He made her put on his dry clothes because she might catch a cold from her damp clothes. The heroine was grateful to her savior. She became embarrassed and decided to ask his name. Lin Yun, without giving his name, said that he gives goodness without reward without boasting about it. The victim began to leave the dangerous shore, and as she said goodbye, she shouted her name, Lin Meng Han, to the young man. After she left, the main character smelled an incredible smell, and soon found its source. It was the spiritual herb of the 7 rays, which is nourished by the sun's rays as it grows. When the flower is ripe, it can be processed into 7 tablets of light, which will give a person spiritual power. With his current abilities, Ling Yun wouldn't be able to process the grass, and fortunately, it would only mature in 2 months. This bush of 7-ray grass was shining because it was filled with solar energy. The main character decided to exchange his insignificant chi energy for this spiritual energy of the sun. Despite losing some abilities, Lin still had the talent to absorb all types of energy. The stage of cultivating chi energy was the second stage after the stage of tempering the body. The Yang Jiao meridian was one of the 8 additional meridians, depressions. As soon as the energy exchange took place, the main character felt lightness and strength throughout his entire body. Lin made several movements and tricks to test the presence of power. It needs to be cultivated to the first stage of chi before the flowers mature. Only after this cultivation will he be able to create pills and restore his meridian. The meridians appear in pairs and consist of yin and yang vessels, both originating at the ankles and running parallel along the body. The main character was sure that all those who humiliated and hurt him would pay for everything. He returned to the dorm, but it was too late to enter through the main entrance, as he would be put on the list. He decided not to take any risks and not to expose himself, but to simply climb over the fence. The first attempt was unsuccessful, and then Lin tried to jump over the fence using spiritual power. After some time, the hero found himself at the required dorm room, number 305. He turned the door handle, but it was locked, so Lin Yun began to knock loudly. There were some young men sitting inside the room, and they forbade the guy closest to the door from opening it. This young man's name was Cha-Han Lin, and he was an ordinary resident of this dormitory, this room. The head of the room, Wei Tanggan, promised Cha-Han that he would beat him every day, just like Lin Yun, if he opened the door. Yuanlong and Jimeng found out that Cha-Han beats Lin Yun because he is not afraid of him, and does not look at him. Cha-Han wants to make Lin suffer for daring to court his goddess. When threatening shouts were heard from the room, Lin stopped knocking. This made Cha-Han Ling laugh because he thought that fatty Ling Yun was afraid of him. The next moment, the main character smashed the door of the dorm room with all his might. He became furious and attacked the residents, asking who dared to close this door. No one present expected such a bold reaction from Lin Yun, and everyone was stunned. Wei Tanggan approached Lin and asked why he was late today and if he was okay. Lin clearly saw this man as a comrade, because he explained the situation to him without being rude. The leader joked that Lin Yun went to the river to commit suicide because he was not accepted into the group. The main character yelled at him and asked again who closed the door of this room. Cha rebuked Lin Yun for his impudence and declared that he personally locked the door. Then the main character couldn't resist, rushed at the leader and struck him in the throat. Cha-Han didn't expect this turn of events and immediately flew to the floor, trying to get rid of this psycho. Everyone present was shocked that some humiliated person had offended their leader of the room. Lin Yun continued to beat Cha-Han, slamming him onto the ground several times and kicking him in the stomach with all his might. Wei Tanggan sharply shouted at Lin to be careful and look back. Behind the hero was an embittered Jimeng, who decided to protect Cha-Han. He stabbed Lin Yun in the back, but the protagonist didn't react to it at all. Jimeng felt an incredible pain in his wrist, and most likely it was broken. Lin Yun began to joke about how Jimeng had little strength, just like a small child. The guy couldn't understand why the fat man, who had been humiliated by everyone, had become so incredibly strong. The noise from this room brought the residents of other rooms to deal with those who were disturbing their sleep. They burst into the room and asked Cha-Han and his comrades to deal with this loser Lin Yun. Cha-Han asked the leader of the other room, Gu Yunlong, to subdue Ling Yun, otherwise everyone in this room would be weaklings. The main character reminded them how they had been torturing him for 2 years, and he had endured it. And now they had closed the door so that he could not enter. He realized that if he didn't fight them back, things would get even worse, and all the guys who came in supported him. The guests decided to leave Lin and Cha-Han's squabbles behind and went to look for earplugs so they could sleep peacefully. Lin Yun realized that they were just cowards who would never fight back against him. The hero settles scores with Cha-Han and continues to beat him, and he has already started to turn blue from the constriction of his throat. Cha-Han suggested that Lin forget everything bad and admitted his guilt for 2 years of beatings. Lin decided to calm down and not beat Cha-Han anymore this time, but promised that next time it would be worse. Cha recognized with fear in Lina a great man who did not need to be contradicted in any situation. Lin promised that everything would remain in the past if, living under the same roof, they did not irritate him. If someone living betrays him, then he will also betray that person, and then life will be bad for everyone. This applied to everyone, including those who did not even intervene in the showdown and lay without a single rustle. Jimeng apologized to Lin and said that he was simply not in his right mind at the time of the attack. The main character was happy and calm that none of these cowards would touch him again. Now he can take the next step with peace of mind and take care of himself. Tomorrow, Lin Yun will say goodbye to his fat body and change forever. When Lin went to take a shower, all the residents decided to stop messing around and become friends with Lin. The next day, the whole school was discussing what had happened yesterday in room 305. Almost everyone didn't believe this nonsense that the fat guy stopped being a loser and beat up one of the coolest guys. There were also rumors that Ling Yun had chased Chao Shan last night and was later caught naked. The young men, hearing this, were angry that Lin was bullying their dream girl. A girl approached them and reprimanded them for discussing ridiculous rumors. It was Chao Shan herself, who is the most popular girl in the school. She returned to her friend, and she began to ask her if Lin had really been with her last night. Shan explained that she hadn't even seen the loser last night, and there was no need to believe the gossip. She revealed that the entire school believed the rumors to be true, and Shan immediately became angry. She wanted to find Lin Yun as soon as possible, and take revenge on him for all the rumors about him harassing her. She realized that if she went to look for Lin, the rumors would only be confirmed, and then there would be no point in proving anything. Shan decided to communicate coldly with him, because in that case, even a fool would understand that they had nothing. Shan explained to her that the only one spreading rumors could be Ling Yun in order to attract the beauty's attention. The girls decided to fight back against this loser who has no right to think about the best girl in school. After one lesson, the students noticed that this fat man was running around the stadium with a bag of sand. The run was not easy for the hero because of his weak body, which does not allow him to cultivate. The girls thought that Lin wanted to lose weight in order to lose weight and become more attractive to girls. The main character moved almost on foot, and it seemed that this training would not bring him any benefit. His sister, who was irritated by jokes about his physical fitness, also noticed his exercise habits. Another beauty from the Zhuangmeika school, and Sam Jun, who was the son of one of the richest families, approached her. Min Lingu reprimanded them and stood up for Lin, saying that he was not a fat pig. These young people never suspected that Lin Yun was this girl's brother. The young man always liked Min Ling, even though he was paired with one of the most beautiful girls in the school. Min promised Zhuang that she would not forgive her if she said anything bad about her brother again. Zhuang explained that she had the right, because Lin Yun was the worst student and was beaten every day. The young man stopped his girlfriend and asked her not to overdo it with the sweet Min Ling. He apologized to his beloved and explained that Zhuangmeika was not one of those who could express himself decently. Zhuang considered this act of Sam Jun to be a betrayal, because they had been in a relationship for a long time. He promised himself that he would immediately break off relations with her as soon as he won Min Ling's heart. Someone from the outside announced the opening of a betting shop and offered to place bets on the number of laps that Lin Yun could run. Everyone around him thought that this unlucky fat man would not be able to run even one lap. Jun himself suggested stopping the showdown and asked the girls to join the company of bettors. Zhuangmeika announced to the loser's sister that the whole school knew that her brother was useless trash. She offered her a bet to place bets on the number of laps that Lin could run. The sister agreed to participate because she believes in her brother and is not afraid of losing to someone. Students from all floors watched as the main character tortured his body with intense exercise. Cao Shan and Jilin, who were among the crowd, did not recognize him as the former Ling Yun at all. Zhai suggested to her friend to join Teng Meng, who was gambling again. Teng Meng, who is the god of gambling and one of the 4 hooligans, greeted the girls. Zhuangmeika bet $2,000 that this loser would only run a lap. The friends bet a certain amount of money that Lin Yun would run 5 to 10 laps. Lin's neighbors did not understand why Goddess Chao and Teng Meng were so confident in him. Ji was afraid that their bet would be lost, since the bag weighed a quarter of Ling. But Shan Cao had calculated everything. Zhuangmeika was worried that her boyfriend did not support her bet, and it was as if he had humiliated her by doing so. She wondered how much confidence Min Lingu had in her brother, and how much she valued his strength. Then the girl announced that her brother would run more than 10 laps and bet 500 yen. Teng Meng closed the betting shop and invited the bettors to go to the field to see the result live. It was hard for the main character to train his body, but he needs to properly temper his heart. Compared to what he had gone through in the cultivation world, this fatigue was just a drop in the ocean. Lin Yun had already run 2 laps, and some players had lost their bets. Teng Meng and his friend Chen Zhang concluded that the hero had already reached his limit in training. At some point, Lin's body became stronger and his steps became faster and longer. The boys immediately became worried because they realized that Lin had not used all his strength. Lin Yun paused and began to spit out blood, as if all his strength had left him. Everyone realized that if the main character continued to run, he could die. Suddenly, Lin Yun stood up briskly, and his aura finally activated. He grabbed the bag with one hand and ran at an even faster pace than before. After spitting out the accumulated blood, the spiritual power of the 7 luminaries' grass finally spread through the veins. Now all the spectators are becoming more interested in how this training will end and what the result of the bet will be. One of the bettors asked his friend to do everything he could to prevent Lin from running the 5th lap. Many others, on the contrary, were rooting for the athlete to complete the 5th round, and then they would get rich. Hearing this, the protagonist mocked them, because only 5 laps is not his style. Since this place has no spiritual energy at all, extreme training is the only way to break the shackles of the body. When this body reaches its limit, it will be able to stimulate the spiritual power of the 7 luminaries' grass and gain a new level of strength. Once Lin exhausted the energy of this herb in his body, he would continue to go to the river to absorb spiritual power. Day by day, he will get rid of this fat and then reach the peak of body hardening. The faster and more Lin Yun sped up, the more the spectators worried about their lost money. The hero's extreme training was also acknowledged by the main bettor, Teng Meng. The guy who was asked to intervene in the betting decided to listen to the advice and prevent Lin from escaping. He threw himself right under the hero's feet to push him off the track and prevent him from completing this 5th lap. Lin Yun gently pushed him away with his super strength and continued moving. Everyone was surprised that the moment Li Lei tried to push Lin, the hero sped up and dodged. He had reached the 5th lap, and Teng Meng and his friend were at a loss for words to explain it. The young man Li Lei was still determined to stop him. He promised that Lin would come to a quick end for disgracing him in front of everyone. Teng Meng didn't like that guy meddling in the betting and not giving him any credit. He was angry and ready to stop this madness and beat the guts out of this guy. His friend asked Ten not to get involved with him since he was a serious person, but he didn't care. The gambling king intervened in the events and shouted at Lin to be careful. Hearing this warning, the protagonist concentrated his forces to fight off his pursuer. He dropped the sandbag and hit the guy in the stomach and several times in the head. Li Lei lost consciousness from the blows he received and fell to the ground, while Ling Yun continued moving. Everyone present supported Lin's actions and stood on his side because that guy deserved it. Teng Meng was completely blue due to Lin's speed, and he wouldn't be surprised by anything, no matter what happened next. Soon, Lin Yun ran 11 laps and stopped, allowing his sister to be the only one to win the bet. Zhuang Meike was completely furious that one of the school's biggest losers was able to show results. The other girls immediately realized that Lin simply wanted to push his body beyond its limits, and that he succeeded. Even those who once bullied Lin were proud of him and wanted to be his #1 fans. Lin Yun was proud of the fact that he was able to improve his social standing with just one run. He lay down on the ground to rest, and his sister Min Lingu immediately came running to him. She noticed blood on her brother's t-shirt and immediately became worried about him. Lin Yun looked at his sister and realized that she had an innate spiritual body, which was a rare phenomenon in the cultivation world. The speed of improvement of such people is 100 times faster than that of others. The young man envied his sister in a good-natured way, because he had to train hard to achieve results, while Min was already born with a strong aura. Min Ling's mother picked up Lin at the entrance to the temple as a baby and brought him into the house. The girl always knew from childhood that she and her brother were not blood relatives. Although they were not related, their relationship was better than that of real brothers and sisters. But until one incident. One day, Lin's peers began to mock him for being a foundling who was picked up on the road. Since then, the brother became quiet and uncommunicative, and began to ignore and avoid his sister. Min Lingu was afraid that she had lost her brother forever, but now she was incredibly happy that their family connection had been restored. The main character decided to take a shower after training, and after, he promised his sister to take her to a hearty lunch. Soon their company went to the cafeteria on the second floor of a good local eatery. Mingling was worried that her brother had brought her to such an expensive place that she had never been to before, due to a lack of funds. The young man was ready to pay for any food his sister ordered, otherwise he would not have invited her here. Min stopped being shy and decided to order the best food so that her brother would eat well after training. Looking at the cost of the dishes, Lin Yun was stunned, because he only had a fraction of that amount in his pocket. He asked his sister about her financial situation, but he was extremely upset that he could not treat her at his own expense. Min Lingu couldn't tell Lin that she had bet all her money on his running result. She lied that she had lent all the money to her dorm mate, and thanked Lin for deciding to treat her. Lin decided that he and his sister would quietly sneak out of the cafe after they finished eating. At this time, the heroes were disturbed by the bettor Teng Meng, who was looking for Ming Ling. The girl began to worry about her bet, and asked the young man not to disturb them while they were having dinner. Ten decided to join them for lunch and asked Min not to shy away from him. The main character noticed his sister's reaction, and rudely began to drive away the uninvited guest. Teng Meng obeyed him and stood up, announcing that he had come here to give the money to Ming Ling. Min, afraid that she would be exposed, pretended not to understand what was being said, and drove the young man away. Before leaving, Teng told her that she had won 10,500 yuan in a bet. Lena was intrigued by this phrase, and Ten told him that he had arranged a bet on how far he could run. According to him, only one bet 500 yuan that Lin would last more than 10 laps, and the odds were over 20. Min began to apologize to her brother for her misdeed, but he, on the contrary, scolded her for betting such a small amount. He asked her to go all in next time if there was a similar bet about him. The main character wanted to strip this guy who was involved in organizing bets naked. Meanwhile, Shan called her brother and told him that a fat schoolboy had broken his record for running with a load. Brother Shan set a record for carrying a load when he was in Shenmi's squad. The young man felt offended by this, because according to his sister, this fat man used to breathe heavily after taking 2 steps. He understood that the schoolboy had not simply pushed himself to the limits of his physical capabilities. Brother asked Shan to be more careful, because those who push themselves beyond their capabilities begin to develop at a rapid pace. At that moment, Shan's friend came up to her and interrupted her phone conversation with her brother. The girls were hungry in the morning, and so decided to go have a bite to eat in the same cafe where Lin and her sister were sitting. Entering the second floor of the cafe, the girls did not expect to see Lin there, because only wealthy students can afford this floor. Cao Shan and Jilin decided not to be shy and joined his company. For some reason, they were confused by Lin Yun's special care for her sister. Cao Shan decided to give Teng the 1,000 yuan she lost in today's bet. The main character decided to take them for himself, because they are owed to him because the bet was about him. When Teng Meng began to protest, Lin agreed to return the money if he ran 11 laps with a bag on his back. Here Ji noticed that since the beginning of their shared dinner, Lin had not once looked at Cao Shan, who was clearly waiting for his gaze. The beautiful Shan couldn't stand it any longer and yelled at Lin for pretending that she wasn't there. Lin Yun's new consciousness didn't know this girl yet, and the hero assumed that she came with Teng Meng. Teng told Lin that this was his classmate Cao Shan, who was the most beautiful girl in the school. Cao ruffled her feathers and made an evening appointment with Lin for tomorrow so that he would regret forgetting her. The angry girls decided to leave the company and both left the cafe. Lin promised his sister that he would not go to any meeting tomorrow evening, and now he suggested that they finish eating and go to class. Tang Meng was surprised that Lin was going to visit the class for the first time in a long time and catch up on the program. On the way from the cafe, Shan expressed her resentment to her friend that Lina was not interested in sitting with her in the same company. And then Ji realized that her friend was too fixated on this Lin Yun and was making plans for the future with him. Chao Shan began to justify herself and said that she hated Lin more than anything in the world. It was clear from her behavior that she was lying and that she was harboring tender feelings for him in her soul. After lunch, the first lesson was history, and the students were excited to see Lin there. When Lin first opened a history textbook, he saw things that were interesting to him. The history teacher entered the classroom and was surprised by the presence of the main character in the lesson. All the students immediately stood up to greet the teacher, but Lin did not do so as he was absorbed in his thoughts. He read in a textbook that in the ancient period before the Qin dynasty, there were hundreds of schools of thought, such as Taoism. The Tao gives birth to one gives birth to two, from 3 living beings are born, and the Tao, followed by heaven, follows nature. Ling Yun wants to carefully study this book, which describes the method of spiritual practice, the scriptures for cultivation. The problem was that the density of spiritual energy in this place was so low that such sacred scriptures were useless. The hero knows that real cultivators may be hiding among ordinary mortals. Ling Yun had been standing out too much lately, and might once again become a target for those people who had destroyed his meridians. Fearing that there were skilled cultivators hiding in this humble world, Ling Yun made the decision to speed up his training. At this point, the teacher picked up Ling Yun and asked him to leave the classroom because he was disrupting the lessons before an important exam. The students were angry with Lin and took the opportunity to insult him and agree with the teacher, who had hated Lin for a long time. The main character apologized to the teacher, explaining that he simply got carried away reading and did not keep up with the general rhythm. The man began to interrogate Lin and asked him what he could remember from what he had just read. Lin said that he had memorized everything from the ancient period of the pre-Qin era to hundreds of schools of thought. The teacher asked Lin to retell everything from beginning to end, expecting him to make the first mistake. The main character was afraid that he would not have enough time in 2 lessons to retell the whole story. The teacher suggested that Lin start now and continue the story after lunch, when there would be 2 history lessons. To eliminate any hints, he asked the student to stand near the board, explaining that this would allow for better hearing. Cao Xian decided to stand up for her lover, but Ji immediately pulled her hand away. Ji was finally convinced that her friend was head over heels in love with Lin Yun. Shan explained that she was going to stop this situation as the class president, so as not to waste precious class time on the boring Lin. She reassured her, because her 6th sense told her that Lin would be able to get out of this somehow. After 4 hours of non-stop storytelling, Lin had correctly reached Chapter 6. There was absolute silence in the classroom, and all the students sat with their mouths open, listening to his story. The lesson ended, and the teacher publicly admitted that Lin had the best elementary memory. He announced that the next lesson would be self-study, and asked Lin to go with him to the teacher's office. He left Chao Shan in charge, and only then did Lin notice that she was actually in his class. During recess, all the students discussed Lin, who retold the history book word for word. Only Lin's deskmate knew that the young man had started reading this book before class. In private, the teacher handed Lin important materials to help him prepare for the upcoming exam. Having recognized the student's talent, the teacher promised that he would never insult or abandon him again. Lin will only need 1 night to deal with this amount of information. Teacher Un was upset that Lin's talent was revealed before the end of his training, and not at the very beginning. When the hero returned to class, all the students were discussing their plans for the rest of the day. Lin will spend the entire evening studying the materials given to him by his history teacher Un. His deskmate expressed admiration for him and asked why teacher Un had called him. The main character talked about the praise, and how the teacher was now interested in Lin passing the exam with the highest score. During the next few lessons, the teachers didn't bother Lin at all, but he noticed that from time to time, someone would glance at him. The students expected to see the same thing from Lin as they had seen in history class, but their wishes were not destined to come true. After classes, Lin was invited to the dormitory, but he refused, choosing to study the subjects on his own. History helps him understand how the world developed, and geography helps him understand the structure of the world, natural features, and people. From these disciplines, the protagonist learned that Yin warriors were used to cultivate the Tao of longevity. Now he is 100% sure that there must be cultivators in this world. When the time comes, Ling Yun will explore the described places himself and find something useful for himself. In the past, he could visit these places in an instant, but now his body has not reached the necessary hardening to somehow protect itself. Ji and Chao Shan also stayed in the classroom and discussed Lin, who hadn't missed a single lesson today. The girls didn't understand what had happened to him, and Zai decided to ask Lin himself. She approached the hero and offered to invite her to dinner that evening. But Lin found it strange. Zai explained that she could help him with his history homework at any time, and for that he should thank her with dinner. When the hero agreed to such a service, Ji decided to take Shan with her, but Ling was against it. The young man explained that he only agreed to have dinner with the two of them because he didn't like Chao Shan's nasty character. Ji felt offended for her friend, for whose sake she had arranged this evening meeting. She decided to get out of it and turned her gaze to Lin's textbook, which depicted interesting places in the world. She told Lin that Shan had been to these places before and could tell him more about them. Not noticing the trap, the protagonist happily agreed to take Chao Shan to dinner at the restaurant opposite the school. At this time, Shan was going crazy with jealousy, but her pride did not allow her to join Ji and Ling's conversation. Jai stepped aside to call the restaurant and reserve a private room. Suddenly, she crashed into a huge young man who abruptly blocked her path. He overheard Ji's conversation and told her that he wouldn't mind going to dinner with Shan Cao. Upon seeing Jufa, Shan became furious and began to chase him out of her classroom. Guo Jufa was the biggest bully among the 4 bullies in this school. All the students were afraid of him because no one would be able to save them if they became his living target. This dangerous guy's father is the head of a real estate company. Guo Jiufa is acting out in school and no one dares to discipline him in any way. He looked around the class and his gaze immediately fell on Lin, who was sitting modestly at the back of the class. Shan realized that Jufa had been targeting Lin from the very beginning, and she wanted to help her lover with all her might. Jufa reassured her and promised that he would definitely go with her to the reserved restaurant as soon as he finished his business here. He addressed Lin as if he were a pig and asked him how he had managed to distinguish himself in history today. The main character asked the bully for the right to ask him a few immodest questions. The first question was how many times Jufa had beaten Lin in the past 3 years, and how much money he had taken from him. The young man didn't even remember how many times he had beaten Lin Yun in front of everyone. Jufa would always take it upon himself to beat him up whenever he or his friends got the itch to punch. As for money, he robbed Lin a couple of times for only 3 or 4,000 yuan because he was a real beggar. Today he heard that Lin's sister had won the bet, and also that Lin had pocketed Shan's lost money. He asked the hero to give him all the money nicely, otherwise he would take it by force when he could no longer move. Here Cao Shan stood up for her classmate and began to drive away Jufa, who was no different from a robber. Lin didn't pay attention to this and continued talking to the young man, asking how much money he had with him now. Jufa explained that there was no difference in the amount, since he would take Lin's money anyway. The protagonist laughed and said that he was afraid that Jufa would not have enough money to pay for his medical expenses. At that moment, Lin swung and dealt the bully a powerful blow to the face. From the unexpected blow, Jufa flew into the far wall of the classroom and began to bleed. After several blows, he finally got to his feet, and his companion watched what was happening. Jufa called out to him for help, but he, trembling, could only shout a few insults at Lin. Jufa was angry that his friend was not helping him, but was provoking Lin even more. When the young man dared to come up and help, he and Jufa were immediately thrown out into the corridor and beaten. After a couple more blows, Lin forbade Jufi from being called the campus bully. In his opinion, even Wei Tanggan from the dormitory was much better in behavior and moral qualities than Guo Jufa. The main character persistently asks his ill-wisher how much he has stolen from him over the past 3 years. Jufa announced the sum of 7,000, and Lin's friend suggested that he should receive this sum with interest. Lin decided not to be impudent, and asked Jufu to voluntarily return the 8,000 to him. Jufa, his whole body trembling, took out money from his pocket and handed 10,000 to Lin. Lin Yun threw the money on the floor and refused to take such a sum because he just wanted to get his savings back. On the other hand, he believes that the bully should pay him for his courage and efforts in raising him. Jiufa collected all his money again and handed it to Lin, with interest for his upbringing. The main character decided not to be so insignificant and agreed to take exactly half the amount. Guo Jufa promised himself that he would definitely ask someone to beat up this fat man as an act of revenge. Before he had time to think about it carefully, another punch from Lin immediately landed in his face. Ling Yun reproached Jufu for standing up without his permission. It was important to the main character that the bully not tell anyone where the bruises on his face came from. He remembered the moment when Jufa's bully forced him to tell everyone that the bruises on his face were due to clumsiness. After each beating, Lin was forced to tell everyone that he fell because he fell down the stairs. Now, based on Jufa's words, he told his classmates that he had crashed into a wall and received bruises. Classmates confirmed these words and said that if there were any problems they could testify to them. Guo Jufa promised the hero that there would be no problems with him in the future, and that he would be careful. Lin Yun asked him not to appear in front of him again, otherwise he would beat him even more. Jufa gathered the rest of his hooligans and they angrily disappeared from Lin's sight. Classmates were glad that someone had finally managed to put these monsters in their place. Chao Shan analyzed Lin's movements and strikes and realized that they were not random. In her opinion, every movement of his implied some mysterious trajectory. The girl wanted to know what secrets the former loser and fat man Lin Yun was hiding. The main character wanted to use the money he received from Jufa to buy acupuncture needles and sports equipment. It would also be nice for him to buy a new phone for his sister, as well as a gift for his mother. Having counted all his money, he realized that it would clearly not be enough for shopping. Lin Yun wanted to find more rich weirdos like him who were looking for trouble. And then Teng Meng entered the office and reproached Lin for beating the son of the head of the largest real estate company. Despite his apparent arrogance, Teng Meng was an honest and reliable person in Lin's eyes. The protagonist hugged Ten and said that they could have beaten up such a tough guy together if he had come earlier. Ten agreed with him and did not argue, because he himself had long had problems with that bully. Suddenly, Lin's excited friend burst into the classroom and was immediately put in his place by Teng Meng. Now the main character understands that these two will always be on his side. As if in collusion with the previous ones, Sister Lina entered the classroom, alarmed by his fight with Jufa. Lin calmed Min Lin down and suggested that they go to a cafe where he could treat her to dinner. He also invited those two guys who had now become his loyal friends, and Shan and her friend, to dinner. Entering the expensive cafe, Lin thought that it was too pretentious for ordinary high school students to come here. That restaurant was one of the expensive ones in town, but Lin didn't know that, and thought they had come to an ordinary local cafe. Teng Meng was kindly envious of Lin, who was the only guy who was accompanied by two beauties of the school. Qi Lin was not at all modest and ordered all the dishes she saw. Fearing that there would not be enough funds, Lin reprimanded her and asked that other companions order first. Everyone wanted to eat their fill, because no one expected that the biggest loser would become the biggest celebrity in the school. Teng Meng was amazed that Ling Yun was able to disgrace Guo Jufu despite his status. He warned Lin that Jufa would not let go of this disgrace and would definitely take revenge on him. Teng suggested that Jufa would hire athletic guys for his own purposes, and Min Ling asked him to help Lin. Teng Meng promised her that as long as he was around, Jufa would not dare to take a step close to Lin. The protagonist realized that he needed to gain enough power to live in comfort. He was glad that he had a suitable candidate for this role in the form of Teng Meng. As expected, Jilin still overate and went to the restroom to powder her nose. This gave Lin a great opportunity to pry information out of Shan, and he asked about the Great Wall of China. Yuanlong said that he had been there as a child, but he did not understand why Lin was interested in the place. The main character said that he was simply interested in how people in ancient times built such a structure. He guessed that his smart classmate Chao Shan knew the answer to this question for sure. Before the girl could open her mouth, everyone heard the scream of Min Ling and Ji Ling, who were being pestered by some unpleasant guys. Chao Shan heard her friend's voice and immediately rushed to her aid. The hooligans were delighted to see her, because they wanted to spend an exciting night with these girls. Ten Ming came to the girls' aid and asked the offenders to apologize to the school children. The hooligans thought they were innocent, but Ten's insolence clearly infuriated them. They asked Teng Meng to kneel down and bow to the elders, and then they would consider sparing him. The hero didn't like their tone and immediately kicked one of them in the stomach. The surviving hooligan wanted to rush to help his comrade, but Lin Yun suddenly appeared behind him. Without thinking, the main character kicked the offender in the back and knocked him to the floor. This was done with each of the offenders, and soon the problematic situation was resolved. Lin Yun rebuked these young people for bringing shame on the name of their university. Having heard the speech about the university, another group of students approached the main character. This time, Chao Shan wanted to take part in the showdown with the hooligans who were taking on too much. Lin Yun abruptly stopped her and told her to go to the other girls to keep them safe. He also asked his friends to stay behind him so as not to suffer at the hands of these hooligans. The boys believed that Lin couldn't handle 7 students on his own, no matter how well he fought. One of the students grabbed the bottle and promised Lin that no one in his company would leave unharmed. As he made a powerful lunge forward, the protagonist carefully stepped aside, and the blow missed. The bully dealt 10 more blows to Lin, but the hero skillfully dodged them. In the final blow, Lin Yun carefully maneuvered and ended up behind the student, gaining the upper hand over the situation. Soon Lin hit him several times, twisted his arm and pressed his head to the floor. When the student asked for mercy, the protagonist grabbed the bottle and began to threaten the others. All the remaining hooligans fell to their knees and began to apologize to Lin Yun. The main character did not accept the apology and forced the young men to ask for forgiveness from the girls. The head of the student group intervened in the situation and wanted to sort things out peacefully. Lin suggested that they pay compensation, but the leader believed that his guys had suffered more. The protagonist believed that they had to pay because they had scared the girls and ruined their evening. He agreed that the students would simply pay the bill for their table and compensate the beauties for the damage. He put the neck of the bottle to the headman and promised that if he did not pay, the fight would continue. Fearing reprisals, the headman agreed to Lin's terms and promised to pay the required amount. At that moment, even Jilin saw a hero in Lin and fell in love with him for a moment. When the elder handed over the money, the hero taught him not to mess with people you can't joke with. If the heroes were in the cultivation realm, there would already be several corpses lying here. After the restaurant, Ji told Lin that this dinner didn't count since he didn't spend a penny. She was ready to forget about the promised dinner if Lin promised her one thing. Cheesy reminded the hero that he is currently training hard to lose weight and get back into shape. After collecting her thoughts, she proposed to Lin Yun to become her boyfriend after losing weight. This act shocked everyone, but not Chao Shan, because the girl clearly did not like it. The protagonist tried to avoid answering, but Ji insisted that he had to promise her this right now. Shan intervened in the conversation, asking her friend to keep her company so that she could immediately return to school for independent study. Finally, the enamored Ji promised Lin that next time, she would not let him go so easily without an answer. After her friends left, Min Ling asked her brother why he didn't return to school with everyone else, and the hero replied that he had important things to do. Teng Meng decided to keep Lin company, since nothing would happen to him that evening. Sister Lin was worried that her brother had started skipping classes again, since he had only recently said that he would start studying hard. She can't shake the feeling that her brother will only get better and better in the future. That evening, during independent study, Min was worried that her brother had not yet returned to school. Suddenly, one of the students ran into the classroom and said that her brother and Teng Meng had come to see Min. Min threw herself into the arms of her brother, who entered the classroom with new things. Lin handed his sister a bag of new things, which included a new phone, headphones, and a camera. The other students didn't understand where Lin got the money to buy the most fashionable things, because their family was poor. Everyone immediately realized that Lin Yun had indeed taken a large sum of money from Jun. Zhuang Meika, who wanted exactly the same things for herself, intervened in the conversation between Lin and her sister. She reproached Lin for being from a family too poor to buy all this for himself, and then Teng Meng wanted to teach her a lesson. He wanted to hit the girl, but the main character quickly stopped him. Lin Yun was angry at her, because he immediately realized that this was the girl who was getting in his sister's way. A modest guy stood up for the girl and introduced himself as Ji Jun. Minling asked her brother not to waste his energy on such stupid people. Then the main character warned everyone present that none of them should try to bully his sister. According to him, if someone offends Minling, then he will make that person pay for everything. Lin's classmates concluded that the fat man was no longer a weakling and had enough strength to fight. Teng Meng wanted to beat Jun up personally, but the protagonist told him that he was unable to do so. Teng Meng didn't agree with his words, so Ling Yun gave him some compelling arguments. When Lin pointed his finger at Jun a few minutes ago, Jun not only tried to dodge, but was also ready to attack. According to Lin, Jun is definitely a skilled warrior and his strength is not small. Lin Yun asked Teng Meng to go home as he wanted to do some training. Before this, the main character had never met a worthy opponent, so he was not particularly motivated to train hard. Now Lin Yun became much more interested and went to the beach to see the energy flower. The 50 stars secret technique at the initial level allows one to absorb the essence of heaven and earth to strengthen one's body. If you practice it to the extreme, you can feel yourself on par with heaven and earth. Eventually, Ling Yun will be able to use all the power of the sun, moon, and stars to his advantage. The protagonist forgot that the meridians in this body have not yet been fully restored, but he believed that such a small problem could not cause him any difficulty. In his hands are not only powerful techniques, the energy of stars and planets, but also all the time of this world. Lin Yun assumed a meditative posture and gradually absorbed the energy of the sunflower. The absorption speed has become significantly faster, and the body can accommodate twice as much spiritual power as before. Lin finally managed to reach the first level of body tempering through hard training. Although he hadn't broken through to the second level as he had hoped, he was still quite content with his current strength. The action then moves to the capital of China, Beijing, where the person who ordered the fat man's murder is having fun. The young man was in the company of two charming girls who were relaxing with him in a local bar. Suddenly a friend called him and told him some extremely unpleasant news about the fat man. He sent him a video of Lin Yun training hard with a sandbag in the school stadium. This news made the guy lose his temper, and he threw the girls away from him with all his might. He called the killer, whose name was Chung Seng, who had previously reported the fat man's death to him. Chung couldn't believe that the guy was still alive and well. He personally saw how the fat man got under the wheels of a truck and showed no signs of life. The customer paid 20 million for the fat man's death, and now believes that he was simply deceived. Chen suggested that the deceased was saved by Sai Bian, who was a famous Chinese medicine doctor. The customer believed that it was definitely not Sai, but the fat man was saved by someone who was definitely not an ordinary person. Chung Seng guessed that the ridiculous fat man was saved by those same strong people. The Lin and Chen families are at the absolute top of the pyramid in this country. Therefore, they know much more than ordinary people. For example, that there are cultivators in this world. Some of them belong to ancient Chinese families who study martial arts and hide in the city, and some belong to sects in the mountains. Chen thought it was the end for them since they had gotten involved with these big bad guys. The customer thought that he was not interested in the fat pig and decided to figure it out himself. After the telephone conversation, he was beside himself because he had previously thought that the fat man was no longer there. He remembered his father telling him that as the eldest grandson of the Lin family, he would not necessarily be the head of the family. Lin Hao was upset that his 3 nephews, including this young man, were fighting among themselves for power. The family's grandson offered his uncle an adventure, and he agreed, because this guy is the only one who doesn't forget about him from time to time. They spied and saw how the head of the family beat his son because he was secretly raising an illegitimate child. The beaten young man admitted that he had not raised him, but had simply abandoned him in the wilderness as soon as he was born. His grandfather told him to go find Lin Yun and bring him back, as his grandson should not grow up somewhere on the streets. This story was related to the person who ordered the murder, because he was a relative of Lin Yun. The customer called his assistants and ordered them to send an assassin to the middle school to kill a man named Lin Yun. He also asked to deliver his body, because this time he wants to personally verify his death. The main character was proud that he possessed the technique of flying needles. At his current level, he can hit the ball without missing from a distance of up to 10 meters. Thanks to his knowledge of the body's meridians, silver needles can be used to heal and save the sick. Lin didn't know where he could get silver needles that would serve him as a powerful weapon. After a few days, the protagonist developed a general understanding of this world. The common sense of mortals in this world has acceptable limits, so Lin can no longer train during the day in front of everyone. After each training session, the girls would discuss him, emphasizing Lin's development into a real man. The boys were angry at Lin for still daring to come to training and achieve results. They were not happy that girls stopped paying attention to them. One of them decided to deal with Lin and give him a good slap in the face for it. Just as he swung, Lin Yun only tensed one arm and blocked the attack. He hit the attacker with all his might, and he felt incredible pain on his face. Lin Yun promised him that from that day on, he could personally provide any student with a slap in the face. He grabbed the guy by the face, and the guy, trembling, asked him what he was going to do. The protagonist asked him not to come too close to him in the future, and gave him a few blows. He knocked him to the ground, and the attacker promised that he would definitely take revenge on him. Lin didn't like these words, and he threw the guy over his body. The hero promised everyone that he would not touch anyone until the moment when someone decided to offend him. One of the students was watching the events and was interested in Lin Yun and his techniques. Returning home last night, the main character saw a pharmacy and decided to buy silver needles there. Then the same girl who had previously watched his training called him. This heroine attracted Lin Yun with her beautiful figure, and he decided to talk to her. Her name was Xu Mei Ning, and she was curious about where Lin Yun was heading. The hero said that he was going to buy something useful, and the girl decided to go with him. When Xu began to pester Lin, he finally admitted that he was going for the silver needles. He said that he needed them to inject the body so that it would not hurt, and sometimes, on the contrary, so that it would hurt. The girl said that their family not only had silver needles, but also a lot of gold ones, so Lin could go with her and buy them for himself. The main character was wary of her, and first asked why she had approached him. She said that her grandfather accidentally saw Lin running with a bag on his back, and was interested to meet him. Grandpa Xu is a Chinese medicine doctor, and the number of different needles he uses after treating patients continues to accumulate. If the main character pleases him, he will be able to buy any number of needles for himself. Lin Yun still agreed to the proposal, and went with the girl to the Xu family. Xu pestered Lin the whole way and did not react to his refusal. She explained her actions by saying that she was afraid that Lin would run away from her and not make it to her house. At the last moment, she climbed onto his lap and pretended to simply look at the scenery through the window. Soon their car arrived at the cottage area near the Xu family's house. Zhu Mengning turned out to be not so simple, because she forced Ling Yun to pay for the taxi. On the territory of the cottage, Lin felt incredible spiritual energy and the smell of precious medicinal herbs. Now, he himself became interested in meeting the grandfather of this beautiful girl. Grandfather Xu met his granddaughter, who arrived with a long-awaited guest. He sent her to make tea, and he decided to talk to Lin Yun and get to know him better. First, he asked if the spoiled Xu Mengning had caused him any inconvenience. The main character told about all her actions, and this confused the old man. Lin Yun scanned Uncle Xu's body and found that there was something wrong with his lungs. In addition, the hero heard a strange cough from the old man and decided to inquire about his health. The old man admitted that he had an old problem with his lungs, but it did not interfere with his life. In fact, he really wanted to see Lin Yun in person after seeing the video of him training hard. Then, on the video, he saw Lin Yun spit out blood from his mouth and fly through the second half of the circle with ease. The uncle wanted to feel the protagonist's pulse because he was interested in his physical condition. He was at a loss after realizing that Lin's vitality was much greater than that of an ordinary person, and that the pulse in the yang energy meridians was too weak. Lin Yun found this shocking, because the old man had learned so much information just by touching him once. Then the old man began to ask the hero about his daily routine, food, and possible meeting with some special people. After Lin's stupid answers, Uncle Xu guessed that it was because of the blood he spat out. But it couldn't possibly have such a quick effect. Lin Yun couldn't admit that he had absorbed the immortal qi and purified the bone marrow because his uncle and his granddaughter would be scared to death. Xu Mengning came out to the heroes, suddenly interested in Ling Yun's body. Grandfather admitted that Lin's physique was several times stronger than that of an ordinary person, and the recipe he prepared would be useless. The girl confessed to Lin that her grandfather had specially prepared a recipe for him that restores the body. Old man Xu said that he had a very important duty, which was to treat and save sick people. Mengning said how many people around the world begged her grandfather to treat them. Lin didn't expect that this old man had such a kind heart, and decided to help him in return. He admitted that he came today to ask the old man for something. Grandpa Xu said that he had nothing but things related to Chinese medicine. The granddaughter couldn't stand it, and told her grandfather that the guest needed silver needles. Lin Yun described in detail what kind of needles he was interested in, and asked to lend him about 9 of them. The old man became alarmed because he realized that Ling Yun was speaking the canon of the mysterious essence of the 9 types of needles, which is a work of Chinese medicine. Meng Ning was dumbfounded and asked the guest to watch his words carefully, because perhaps he didn't understand what he was talking about. Grandpa couldn't believe that he met a person who owned this canon, which is the most advanced needle technique. There are 9 unbridled organs in the human body, which are the 9 main spiritual centers in the body. Canon is a method of inserting needles into these 9 points, with the help of which a person returns to life even after the most serious injuries. This method was lost long ago, and no one has ever seen it in real life. Previously, the protagonist thought that the canon of 9 types of needles was the most common needle technique. Both the grandfather and his granddaughter knew that the canon could only be used with the help of innate true qi energy. They didn't understand how an 18-year-old disciple could have such a level of cultivation. Mengning pounced on the guest and accused him of lying. She called him a fraud who decided to play a joke on the body of her beloved grandfather. Grandfather Xu stood up for the long-awaited guest and asked his granddaughter to let him go. The girl decided to give Lin Yun a chance if he could tell her what was wrong with her grandfather in one go. With just one glance, Lin Yun told him that Grandpa had problems with his lungs, but the root of the problem was in his heart. From the tone of Xu's tongue, the hero knew that the problem was the result of an overly strong heart fire. When the heart fire is too strong, it begins to harm the energy meridians in the lungs, leading to their deficiency and constant coughing. Lin believed that the reason his grandfather's heart fire was so strong was because the old man was taking too many tonics. Uncle Xu finally believed Lin Yun and asked him to prepare to insert needles into his body. When the granddaughter wanted to know the truth about her grandfather's use of so many strengthening herbs, Lin asked Xu to tell everything himself. The grandfather allowed the guest to tell his granddaughter that the reason for consuming so many herbs was that there was a living creature living in his body. Meng Ning was at a loss as to how this could be possible. Grandpa Xu confessed that the living creature inside him was a poisonous parasite. 40 years ago, when he went to the Miao territory in search of the supreme path of healing, he saved a girl from that tribe. It turned out that she was the holy maiden of the area, and a great master in the art of healing and perfecting parasites. The time spent talking with her was one of the happiest moments in Xu's life. However, when his medical skills stopped improving, he decided to leave the area. Little did he know that the girl Miao had already fallen in love with him and wanted him to stay with her forever. At that time, Grandpa Xu was already married to Grandma Meng Ning, and they had a son. Grandpa Xu never expected that Miao would have a hand in his food. She still planned it in such a way that Xu couldn't avoid it. It seemed to the main character that he didn't even try to escape this situation and simply gave in. After making love, the parasite penetrates the body of another person and does not allow him to forget his partner for the rest of his life. The granddaughter asked her grandfather why he abandoned his beloved and simply did not take her home. If someone forgets Miao, the parasite will begin to eat away at their heart, and the pain will be so intense that death will seem like the only way out. When Miao relaxed, Grandpa Xu sensed the parasite's weakening and decided to escape from her territory. He couldn't get the parasite to leave his body, so he had to find a way to suppress it. So he has to take these herbs to strengthen the heart and spleen, to increase the power of fire in the body and suppress the pain from the parasite. Meng Ning pointed out that since this girl's love was strong, she should have started looking for Xu. Grandfather confessed that Miao had been looking for him all her life, but only his wife met her before him. Grandfather doesn't know what they talked about then, but after that meeting, Miao returned to the territory, and he never saw her again. Grandma told Xu that he himself had provoked this affair, and this love parasite and suffering was the price he had to pay. After Grandpa told the whole story, he asked Lin to start inserting the needles. He brought the box, opened it, and an incredible energy wafted throughout the entire area. Meng Ning asked the guest to take special care of her grandfather. As she left, she promised that if her grandfather were to suffer in any way, Lin would be hunted by a lot of people. Xu was worried that the procedure would take place outside, but the hero found it more convenient this way. He asked the old man to undress and began to insert needles. In the process, the main character realized that he could not use spiritual energy. When inserting the needles, he used the energy movement technique, as well as other higher techniques and chi movements. After inserting one needle, he noticed that nothing had changed with the old man's body. If Lin stopped at this, the girl would definitely explode with anger and get mad at him. The protagonist suggested that he needed to run a couple of kilometers to expel the spiritual energy. Looking around, he realized that he could simply absorb the spiritual energy of the jade that the needle box was made of. It turned out that Ling Yun had a special talent where he could absorb the spiritual energy of all things. He touched the jade box and stimulated his energy with the jade. He didn't expect that this trick would actually work and fill the needle with energy. After acupuncture, the parasite will cease to act for about 2 months. But during this time, the old man can regulate the lung meridians. Regulating the meridians in the lungs will help temporarily get rid of a severe cough. A moment later, 8 of the 9 needles were stuck into the old man's body. After Lin Yun stuck in the outermost needle, the old man's body was filled with incredible energy. Grandfather Shu shook and spat out a stream of blood from his lungs in wild horror. The granddaughter ran out to her grandfather, worried that he had vomited blood. The old man felt the canon of the mysterious essence of the 9 types of needles for the first time, thanks to which he felt a completely new body. He decided to thank his savior and allowed him to take these golden needles for himself. The old man had no doubts, because before him was the only one who could use them correctly. Ling Yun happily accepted the gift, but Meng Ning rebuked him for his lack of politeness. Then the hero pounced on her and said that he never heard a thank you for healing her grandfather. The grandfather scolded his granddaughter for arguing with the one who saved her dear grandfather. The main character decided to be cheeky and told the master that he had one more request for him. He said that he would like to ask him for a set of ordinary silver needles, so that he would not have to search all over China later. The old man laughed and decided to hand over all 10 sets of needles to the pleasant guest. When he laid the needles on the table, Meng Ning became worried that Grandpa was going to give Lin the needles he used himself. Grandfather believed that these needles would only achieve maximum effectiveness in Lin's hands. With their help, Ling Yun will cure a large number of sick people. The granddaughter was interested in when Lin would be able to completely remove the parasite from her grandfather's body. The protagonist confessed that after 2 months, when Shu's body has recovered sufficiently, he will help rid him of the parasite. When the acupuncture process was taking place, the girl Miao also vomited blood. She realized that someone was able to suppress her parasite, which was devouring the heart of her lover. She knew that Shu wouldn't be able to avoid this just because he found some expert. Meanwhile, her daughter was in the company of other children on the street. The girl told the children of the tribe about the other world that she was able to see. Suddenly, she heard her mother calling her and immediately ran to help her. When she entered inside, she saw her mother sitting in a meditation pose with blood spilled around her. She admitted that her love parasite was suppressed, which caused a strong backlash. The daughter believed that after several decades, her mother could bring the parasite back and end the suffering. Miao promised that she would never bring the parasite back, because Shu is the only one she likes in this life. She admitted that the man who had suppressed her parasite was a skilled craftsman, and she could not deal with him from such a distance. She told her daughter to go and look for him tomorrow, because he was already marked with the aura of a heart-eating parasite. The daughter, Xiao Miao, felt that she couldn't handle this man who could even control the devouring parasite. Miao believed that with her voodoo technique, Xiao would easily suppress this low cultivation person. She ordered to force the master to release the parasite when he was in a painful state, and began to look for a way to escape. Finally, the mother asked her daughter not to give in to temptations when she found herself outside the settlement. Xiao Miao promised that she would never like strange men. The car carrying the protagonist and Shu Mengning arrived at the luxurious house. The guards looked at them and became alarmed, because they did not understand what kind of big shot had come to see them. Mengning informed her comrade that they had arrived at the restaurant, and she had to personally thank Lin for saving her grandfather. At dinner, the girl asked Lin why he didn't ask his grandfather for anything after the extraction. The girl believed that Lin's greedy nature should have begged the old man for more needles. Then she guessed that Lin Yun still had no idea what her grandfather's status was. According to the protagonist, Meng Ning's grandfather was a skilled Chinese medicine doctor, and nothing more. Lin also called Shu a heartbreaker who abandoned his lover, and Meng Ning was then furious. She wanted to hit the hero in the face, but Lin Yun managed to grab her hand. He made a sudden movement, and the girl stumbled and ended up on his lap. Lin suggested that she first fulfill the promise she had made to him earlier. Half an hour ago, Meng Ning promised that she would throw Lin into the river to the fish if he didn't cure her grandfather. If the hero cures Shu, Meng Ning will allow him to kiss her at any time. The girl always kept her promises, and this time she does not go back on her words. Lin Yun took advantage of the moment and hugged Meng to his chest, giving her a kiss. At the light touch of his lips, Meng Ning pushed Ling Yun away from her because she remembered an important detail. She said that their agreement was to completely cure Grandpa, and so Lin needed to first completely remove the parasite from his body. The main character decided to take his time and wait a couple of months before the first kiss. In fact, the protagonist knew that Master Shu had an unusual status and also had a lot of wealth. Not every person can afford to live in such a large mansion on such expensive land. In addition to this, the old man's speech conveys the grandeur of a high-ranking person, with a huge status behind him. If Lin Yun had taken a lot of money from him, their relationship would have ended there. And in this situation, the old man will remember Lin as the man who saved his life almost for free. He will always look for a way to thank him and will come to his aid at any time. Mengning asked Lin to teach her the canon of the mysterious essence of the 9 types of needles. Lin didn't know that she wouldn't be able to use this technique without spiritual energy. He told her that this technique could not be passed on to other people. But Meng did not insist on receiving it secretly. The main character still agreed to train her, but first he wanted to test her. When Meng Ning agreed to the inspection, Lin said that the inspection would take 2 years. He explained that the canon of 9 types of needles was a legendary technique that he had been mastering for about 9 years. In fact, he was just talking nonsense to the girl with a serious look so that she would leave him alone. After thinking for a while, Meng Ning still agreed to the 2-year test, because she wanted to master the canon that could save anyone. The girl put Lin in the car, and they went to the best shopping center in the city. Lin Yun didn't know what a shopping mall was, but from his body's memories, it was a place where all sorts of things were sold. He had warned Meng in advance that he had no money for shopping, but she reassured him. Meng Ning took her grandfather's card, which had no limit and could buy whatever she wanted. It was typical of Lin that the girl was not shy about taking advantage of her family's advantages. Suddenly their car got stuck in a serious traffic jam that lasted for several hours. After looking around the area, the main character noticed that a serious accident had occurred ahead. He suggested that they sit in the car until the incident was over, but Meng Ning wanted to help someone. They went to the scene of the accident, where a lot of people had gathered, and everyone was scared. The driver ran a red light, hit 3 pedestrians and crashed into a white car before stopping. The 2 schoolgirls were not seriously injured, but one old man was thrown into the air and is probably dead. Meng pushed Lin Yun to hurry up and save people as best he could. The main character had an uneasy feeling that a crowd of people was watching him. Looking closely at the crowd, he saw a strange man who seemed very dangerous to him. Soon this feeling disappeared, and Lin Yun guessed that it was just his imagination. When Meng Ning wanted to help the old man, she was asked not to do so because he needed the help of specialists. The girl was only good at recognizing medicinal herbs, feeling the pulse and simple palpation. A surgeon arrived at the scene and asked to make room for him to provide first aid. He examined the victim and found that he had serious injuries to his body. The doctor broke out in a sweat when he discovered that the patient's heartbeat and breathing were weak and his pupils were dilated. The police told him that the nearby streets were blocked and an ambulance would not be able to get through. The man said that this old man needed to be operated on immediately. Otherwise, his life could be in danger at any moment. Meng Ning looked at Ling Yun and asked him to save this old man from death. The protagonist promised her that the victim would not die as long as he was here. The doctor stopped Lin and asked him to stop playing with people's lives because this is not a playground. His reaction makes Meng Ning angry because his opinion will only hinder Lin. The main character decided to let things slide, but Meng Ning immediately grabbed him and tearfully asked for help once again. The protagonist told her that the old man's condition was stable for now and went to check on the other victims. He asked the girl to help him with this, and she happily agreed. Lin examined the schoolgirls and decided to stop their bleeding with acupuncture and then set the bones. Meng Ning was confused by the protagonist's calmness, who remained composed in the face of so much blood. The cultivation world is a place where the strong eat the weak, and where fighting for one's life is commonplace. There, you take every step with your sword pointed in front of you, so Lin saw many scenes where blood flows like a river. Lin Yun examined the schoolgirl and promised her that she would soon recover completely. After his touch, the girl realized that she felt great, and that she was not in any pain at all. Then the main character examined the girl driver, who simply lost consciousness. He inserted a needle into her neck to restore consciousness, and asked an assistant to monitor her condition. Noticing his actions, the doctor was surprised that an ordinary schoolboy knew Chinese medicine and saved the victims in such a short time. He regretted driving Lin Yun away from the accident scene and not letting him take care of the victims. Lin Yun asked the doctor to let him take care of the old man's wounds, and he happily agreed. Lin Yun asked him not to let outsiders near the scene until he had inserted the needles. Since Lin cannot use his spiritual energy, he will have to rely on acupuncture points. The doctor watched with interest as the entire process, from palpating the points to inserting the needles, was carried out without hesitation. He guessed that Lin Yun had decades of experience in Chinese medicine behind him. The crowd became alarmed that the schoolboy was inserting needles into the victims' bodies and started making a noise. They assumed that with such actions the teenager would clearly drive the old man into the grave. The protagonist realized that the old man had brain damage, and inserting a needle would help him avoid paralysis and even death. The surgeon heard that even the best Chinese medicine doctors do not dare to use needles on the crown of the head. Lin Yun, without any hesitation, inserted the needle into the crown of the head and saved the old man. When the old man moved his fingers, the crowd of people admired the protagonist's action. During this work, Lin Yun realized that he was having a very difficult time without spiritual powers. Another car arrived at the scene with an unknown person, who was immediately questioned by the police. The stranger pounced on the girl in uniform and ordered her to get out of his sight. Otherwise, he would strip her to the throat. He headed towards the damaged car and started kicking it, while the injured schoolgirl came to her senses. It turned out that this girl was the wife of this stranger, and they clearly had misunderstandings in their marriage. The man decided to teach her a lesson so that he could live peacefully outside the family. Meng Ning walked towards him and immediately stopped his crazy actions. She asked the man not to touch the victim, as she had just come to. The stranger pounced on Meng Ning and promised that he would caress her that evening. Luckily, the main character came to her rescue and promised the man to clean his face. Believing in his strength, the stranger began to stretch his arms to teach this fat man a lesson. When he rushed at Lin, he carefully stepped aside and missed the blow near him. The bully's next blow was again directed at Lin, and the protagonist suddenly grabbed his fist. He clenched his fist so hard that the boy screamed in wild pain throughout the street. Lin Yun dealt blow after blow and knocked out drops of blood and a couple of teeth from the bully's face. The attacker asked not to beat him, since he is the young master of an influential family from the capital. The main character didn't care about this phrase, because he doesn't even know where the capital is. He continued to beat the guy, and soon he fell to the ground and almost lost consciousness. A female police officer ran to the scene of the fight, upset by what had happened. When Lin Yun looked at her, she felt light and numb all over her body. The victim driver was stunned by Lin's actions, that he could beat up a person from such an important family. Every last person in the crowd supported Lin's actions, and no one stood against him. The protagonist wanted to continue beating the bully, but Meng Ning immediately approached him, wanting to take on this role. She wanted to take revenge on the young man for the fact that he was going to caress her this evening. With one blow, she promised him that she would make it so that he would not be able to caress himself. After her blows, Lin Yun knew that he would better not provoke her in the future, because angry women were too terrible. He wanted to leave the scene when suddenly the victim called him from the car. First, she thanked Lin Yun for saving her through Chinese medicine. The main character was glad that the girl came to her senses, and wanted to pull the needle out of her as quickly as possible so that it would not disappear. He carefully climbed over the girl, and the victim felt a thrill in her heart at Lin's touch. It was unclear why Lin Yun didn't react at all to the short distance between them and her luxurious form. Every man she had ever met before, without exception, always looked at her with lustful eyes. Lin Yun asked her to rest for a while he removed the needles from the other participants in the incident. As he walked away from the car, he realized that he was completely seething over this beauty's gorgeous body. The girl driver decided to catch up with Lin, and introducing herself as Zhuang Mei Feng, asked for his phone number. Lin Yun played dumb and told the beauty that he didn't have a phone. Zhuang Mei Feng immediately realized that he was pretending to be a fool because he simply didn't want to get involved with her. The hero still gave the meeting a chance, and said that Mei Feng could visit him at middle school at any time. She clearly didn't expect that the young man who was knowledgeable about Chinese medicine would turn out to be a schoolboy. She broke out in sweat and remembered that she had run away from her marriage and could no longer return to the Zhuang family. In fact, she was Zhuang Mei's mother, and she decided not to reveal this relationship to Lin. She wrote her phone number on Lin's hand and allowed him to call at any time. At the end of the conversation, she said that the family of the beaten man is one of the most influential in the capital, and most likely will want to take revenge on Lin. She promised that she would do everything possible to protect the protagonist when the time came. Lin Yun refused her willingness to protect him and asked her to take care of herself for now. He wasn't the only one who beat up that bully. There was also Meng Ning, who also had a lot of influence. The protagonist did not notice how Meng Ning approached them, silently jealous of him for this beauty. After some time, she finally approached Lin and said that the ambulance had already arrived and they needed to go. Lin Yun hugged his friend and promised to go shopping together after he got out his needles. They started to get ready to leave, but suddenly, an angry policewoman blocked their way. She wanted to take the heroes to the station because they had committed a joint attack on a man on the street. Meng Ning accused her of standing by while the bully tried to attack the innocent girl. The surgeon also sided with Lin Yun, who had just saved a seriously injured old man. Zhuang Mei Feng promised the police that she would take full responsibility and explain the situation to them herself. The policewoman's colleague asked her to simply close her eyes to what was happening, but she did not want to listen to him. He thought that Li Sun's injuries were not serious, and therefore those students could be released, but his colleague stood her ground. She was afraid that the Sun family would start to pester them if they didn't arrest the culprits. Meng Ning was prepared to be arrested and waited for the policewoman to attack her. At this time, the main character went to the old man, who had just come to his senses and wanted to know the name of the savior. Introducing himself as Lin Yun, the hero promised the old man that he would soon return to his previous life and forget about the injury. Now, none of the spectators doubted that they were looking at a real doctor. Everyone present rushed to insult the police officers because Sun Xing was the first to attack with threats. The protagonist was worried that Meng would say something stupid to the police, so he decided to simply take her away. The policewoman continued to stand her ground and again blocked the hero's path. Lin Yun touched her with his finger, and the woman again lost all feeling in her body and fell into her colleague's arms. When she fell to the ground, she began to ask God what stupidity she had committed in this life. After some time, the protagonist and his girlfriend finished shopping, and Lin was very tired. Meng Ning didn't understand why her comrade was tired, since she had chosen his phone and clothes herself. She suggested that his fatigue was due to his being overweight, and pointed this out to him. The young man admitted that he continues to lose weight, and in 2 months will return to his normal weight of 75 kilograms. The girl didn't believe that the hero would lose 30 kilograms in just 2 months. Suddenly her phone rang, and she was clearly not happy about it. The person on the line was Li Qichong, who was known as the #1 major in this city. He told Meng that he couldn't decide on a gift for her birthday and wanted to ask her for advice. Meng Ning replied that any gift he gave her would not be to her liking and asked him not to waste his time. As she spoke, the protagonist choked with laughter, and Qichong immediately heard a man's voice. He began to question Meng about this, and she told him that today she had dined in the company of this young man and also did many interesting things. After hearing her words, Qichong became furious, as he was consumed with jealousy towards this beauty. He asked Meng what kind of relationship she had with this person, and she said that Ling Yun was her boyfriend. The whole evening, Qichong couldn't believe that his beloved had found a boyfriend and didn't even look at him after he had been chasing her for the 2nd year already. He couldn't contain his feelings and decided to call his friend Teng Meng in the middle of the night. After a short conversation, Teng Meng promised Qichong that he would find the guy who dared to get close to Xu Mengning. At that moment, the main character felt that someone was swearing terribly at him behind his back. Meng Ning decided to take advantage of the moment and asked Ling Yun to pretend to be her boyfriend for a while. The main character didn't want to get involved with her because she has a damn influential family, and that guy's family is also unusual. The girl insisted on her offer and reminded Lin that she had bought a bunch of fashionable things for him. She also promised to buy a bunch of other things, and then the main character agreed to her offer. That evening, Kaoshan was worried that Ling Yun had missed his evening self-study. Suddenly, her friend Ji ran into the classroom and said that Lin was returning to the dorm in an expensive car. The girls immediately ran to the dormitory to see Lin Yun with their own eyes and ask him about everything. The protagonist left the dorm and headed towards his sister, pretending that Ji and Xiaoshan simply didn't exist. The group leader couldn't withstand such a blow and grabbed Lin Yun and led him away. She reproached him for skipping classes in order to go shopping for expensive things. The young man wanted to justify his actions, and in conversation accidentally said that he was in the company of an interesting person. Xiaoshan wondered what kind of person her classmate was talking about, and Lin admitted that he was in the company of a girl. He said that he wanted to pass his exams successfully and go to university. But at this time in his life, he was a little confused. At the end of the conversation, he asked the head man what he was doing had to do with her, and this made the girl shut up. Xiaoshan decided to teach Lin a good lesson and kicked him in the stomach, but he suddenly grabbed her leg. The beautiful schoolgirl and the former fat man were a few centimeters apart and silently looked into each other's eyes. When Lin Yun hugged her waist, Shan blushed from the excess of her feelings for him. The heroes noticed that a lot of people were gathering around them, discussing this incident. In the crowd, there was also Teng Meng, who was pleased with Lin Yun's manly act. Minling asked him why he was there, and he simply said that he wanted to watch the fun. In fact, he secretly found out that Lin and her sister were going to go home, and he wanted to see Meng off. Xiaoshan demanded that Ling let her go immediately, but the protagonist wanted to enjoy this show for a little longer. The beauty asked him to come closer to reveal the secret, and when he did, she mercilessly bit his hand. When she pulled away from his embrace, she promised Lin Yun that she would bite him for missing classes. When the crowd dispersed, Lin's sister approached him, radiating spiritual energy. Today, Lin had expended too much spiritual energy, and he decided to take this opportunity to replenish it. Ten Meng suddenly ran up to him, insistently wanting to take him and his sister by car. He explained that the last bus had already passed, and Lin's house was too far from the school. Soon, Teng Meng's expensive car arrived at the house where the Lin and Ming family lived. When the protagonist approached his house, he realized that the house was too different from the house Master Shu lived in. At home, the nasty Tian Botao, who was the organizer of the streets, bullied Lin's mother. He promised the woman a lot of problems at the clinic if she didn't take care of her soon. Lin's mother calmly responded that she would solve her problems with the clinic on her own. He offered the woman his help, as he is very well acquainted with the developer who wants to demolish her clinic. Before the man could announce his conditions, a joyful Mengling burst into the house. When the girl walked past Tian Botao to her mother, the man immediately began to drool over her. He didn't notice how Lin Yun walked up to him and looked at him with a frightening gaze. The main character insulted this uninvited guest and reproached him for his high sexual activity. When the man demanded an apology from such an important person, Lin didn't hesitate to hit him in the face. Teng Meng entered the Lin family's house and asked them to leave Tian Botao in his care. Within seconds, the man fell to the floor and began to bleed. The main character did not understand why Ten himself dealt with Min Ling's offender. Tian Botai demanded that this situation be resolved peacefully, but Teng could no longer be stopped. Teng Meng grabbed the unpleasant man by his clothes and threw him out onto the street, face down on the asphalt. After the unpleasant situation, Lin introduced his mother to Ten Meng, who simply drove him and his sister home. Seeing such a beautiful woman, Teng Meng's mouth began to water, and Lin Yun immediately slapped him. Teng Meng confessed to his friend that his mother was too young and beautiful for her age. The aunt accepted this compliment and invited the guest to dine with them. In the kitchen, Meng and her mother began cooking lobsters and started talking about the fight. The aunt believed that she should not have stopped the children, because that evil man deserved these beatings. She asked her daughter to behave exactly like her brother in the future if someone bullied her. Min Ling couldn't understand why his mother never once called on Lin to fight back against the enemies who had bullied him for many years. The woman wanted her son to understand the difficult truths on his own without her advice. She decided to end this conversation and asked her daughter to bring the dishes for food. As she was leaving, Min Ling noticed that their mother was acting very strange today. Left alone, the aunt remembered her husband, after whose disappearance her family began to live too poorly. She never thought her son would bring home lobsters that she hadn't eaten since her husband went missing. After looking around Lin's apartment, Teng Meng concluded that his family was having a hard time coping. The protagonist acknowledged his family's situation and, winking at Ten, explained that this was why he needed a lot of money. From all of the above, Teng Meng thought that Ling Yun wanted to take away his existing funds by force. Teng Meng grew up in a wealthy environment where he was fed, clothed, and provided with the best of everything. Every Chinese New Year he received at least 100,000 wen as a gift. This young man never even thought that he lived differently than his peers, until today. Just on the way here, he was bragging about how expensive his car was, and he didn't even pay attention to Lin and Min's feelings. Touched, with tears in his eyes, he was ready to give all his money to Lin to somehow help him cope with such a bad situation. He promised Lin that he would sell his car and give him the money he got, but Lin simply offered him a way to make money together. Teng Meng said that from the look in Lin's eyes, he thought that he wanted to take all the money from him by force. The protagonist said that he wouldn't do such a shameful thing, but Ten remembered that Lin had been doing nothing but that in recent days. The hero remembered Ten as the main god of gambling and invited him to play big. He wanted him to take bets on whether Lin would be able to get into university and how many grades he would get. Ten pointed out that these bets were pointless because everyone knew that Lin would not get into any college. He asked Lin to be realistic, since Lin Yun was not at the level to enter a good university. He thought it would be better if he just sold the car and brought all the money to the Lin family. The main character reminded his friend about running with a bag of sand, thanks to which he brought down all the bettors. Teng Meng suggested that Yun's admission to a prestigious university might also be possible, and he agreed to take the risk. Lin Yun proposed a deal where they would deceive Jufu and Jun and the other rich students in the school. Their conversation was interrupted by the aunt, who invited everyone to join the table. Ten Ming can be called a gourmet to some extent, because he has tasted many delicious dishes in his life. Despite this, Auntie's culinary skills would make her a goddess in any restaurant and would surpass all of Teng Meng's delicious dishes. The young man did not understand why a person of such a level lived in this shabby clinic, and he felt uneasy in front of her. The mother asked her son to eat a few more servings because he had lost too much weight recently. Today, Lin Yun bought a lot of things and even took the initiative to teach Tian Botao a lesson. He is now a completely different person compared to the previous weak and incompetent Lin Yun. It seemed strange to him that his mother was not at all surprised by his strength, but took it for granted. After dinner, Teng Meng got ready to go home and promised that he would definitely visit this family next time. Lin Yun asked him to do one favor if he was going to have dinner with them again. The main character would like to rent an apartment near the school and asked Ten to find a suitable option. He explained his desires by saying that he wanted to live in a quiet area and not encounter too many people while training. On the way home, Ten couldn't stop thinking about Lin's family, in which all three people had different surnames. Moreover, Aunt Chin is dressed in ordinary clothes, but her manners are far superior to those of ordinary people. Meng assumed that his classmate had a fascinating history and a lot of suffering behind him. After dinner, the protagonist went to the Grass of the Sun to conduct another spiritual training. He got there in a short time and decided to use the time he saved to swim in the river. He had finally used up all the spiritual energy in his body, and now it was time to move on to the second level of tempering. After reaching the second level of body tempering, all aspects of the body will be improved. The amount of spiritual energy that Ling Yun could absorb would also increase with this. After hard training, the protagonist reached the second spiritual level of body tempering. At that moment, he felt a core of energy accumulation appear in the center of his abdomen. He realized that it was the immortal spiritual energy that protected his original spirit during the time travel and the crossing of the disaster. Lin thought that his spiritual energy was completely depleted after crossing time, but it turns out that it was hidden within his body. Unfortunately, he can't use it now, but this immortal energy will be very useful for his cultivation. He thanked God for such a gift and decided to start practicing the valuable technique of 50-fold stars. His training lasted until dawn, and Lin needed to get home quickly before they started looking for him. Meanwhile, at the food market, hooligans harassed a saleswoman and ordered her to leave the area. Lin Yun immediately felt that a group of men were bullying a pregnant woman right in the middle of the street. The hooligans insisted that the girl leave the market or pay for her trading place. One of the attackers suggested that she come to the bar with him that evening and chat, and then she would be able to sell whatever she wanted. The pregnant girl apologized and said that she was going to see her husband at the hospital in the evening. The guy was not against going with her to have fun in front of her husband, and then the girl could not stand it and slapped him. The man reacted instantly and swinging, felt Lin Yun's hand on himself. When the protagonist squeezed his hand, the guy shouted out that he was the nephew of the respected Tian Botao. The woman begged Lin to run away from this dangerous territory, as these people were not to be trifled with. Lin Yun didn't mind stretching his arms on them after such a hard night of training. In a matter of minutes, he neutralized all the attackers and threw them far away from this beauty. The young man realized that he needed to continue training because his body still felt pain when he punched. The pregnant girl began to lose consciousness from the sight of blood. But fortunately, Lin caught her in time. After scanning her body, he informed her that if she continued to work, both she and her baby would be in danger. He said that his family has its own clinic and invited the pregnant woman to come see him today. In addition, the main character gave the needy woman some money so that she could take care of her husband. When the woman refused, Lin explained that the money would cover the cost of food spoiled by the garbage. The woman could not hold back her tears, took the money, and left the market for home with great gratitude. At that moment, the main character realized that he had given her all the money he had with him, but he did not regret his good deed at all. Lin Yun heard that one of the attackers had come to his senses and was begging for mercy. The hero masterfully explained that the hooligans should pay him for the physical harm to his hand. He began to threaten to punish all the hooligans, and he finally agreed to pay the required amount. After this unpleasant situation, the pregnant woman came home and did not know how to thank Lin. She remembered that her husband had allowed her to sell the family heirloom if money became really tight. The beauty took the box with the relic and decided to give it to her savior as a gift. That same morning, Ling Yun returned home to find a worried Min Ling waiting for him. The mother simply calmly asked her son not to leave for long periods of time again, or to warn his sister. When the sister brought her brother clean clothes, she noticed an interesting box on his table. When Ling Yun allowed her to open the box, the girl placed her hands on the jade, and the jade began to absorb her energy. For the first time in his life, Lin Yun sees something that can suck spiritual energy from the body. Now he understands that in front of him is a repository in which his own energy can be stored. Previously, he thought that the power of the 7 luminary spiritual grass was simply dispersed into space. Now, thanks to this box, Lin will be able to store spiritual energy and access it whenever she wants. He thought it was almost the same as having an energy-gathering talisman that could be used infinitely. After this, the heroes went to a family dinner, where Lin wanted to confess how he became rich. He hinted to his mother that he could help her with the clinic, because he was able to cure any disease. The mother did not react to these strange words of her son and accepted the offer. She happily went shopping with Min Lin, while Lin remained as a clinic worker. The hero believed that people had a wonderful chance to be treated by such an immortal doctor who would save them from any disease. When no patients came to see him for several hours, he decided not to waste time and practice with needles. He took the golden needles and threw them at the target, hitting the right spots on the little man. Lin walked towards the door to inspect the target, and at that moment, his entire body was covered in spiritual energy. The immortal energy itself was activated in Lin's body, and helped him directly break through to the 3rd level of body tempering. The hero wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to quickly break through to the 4th level, but he failed. After many attempts, he fell to the floor, exhausted, and saw that the pregnant girl had come to him. Lin Yun decided to confess to her that he was a master of Chinese medicine who could definitely help her. The pregnant girl assumed a lying position, and her whole body trembled with fear. Lin Yun was able to calm her down and began the acupuncture process to save the child. In this way, he will not only be able to normalize the condition of the fetus, but also improve the health of the aunt, so that she will almost never get sick. Half an hour later, the patient admitted that the anxiety had disappeared and her whole body felt light. For Lin's feat, she decided to thank him with a gift in the form of a family heirloom. When Lin touched the gifted brush, his body was once again filled with his immortal energy. The boy saw that his immortal energy was quickly flowing into the gifted relic. The young man was grateful for such a suitable gift because now this brush contained all his immortal spiritual energy, which no one could take away. After Auntie left, Lin decided to go home to test the brush with ink. It turns out that this thing can perfectly draw hieroglyphs and create painted talismans. Suddenly, out of the blue, the main character received a call from Shumei Ning, who had already begun to miss him. 10 minutes after the phone conversation, the girl arrived at Lin's house to spend time together. She wanted to help Lin with the clinic and explained this by saying that she was his loving girlfriend. Meng Ning wanted to touch his cheeks, but Lin refused her and would only agree for a certain amount of money. At that very moment, a message arrived on his phone that 10,000 yuan had just been credited to his account. As Meng Ning began to caress Lin Yun, Lin's mother, sister, and Teng Meng entered the clinic. The hero's girlfriend suddenly changed her expression and announced to his mother that she was her son's girlfriend. Teng Meng suddenly recalled the moment when he promised his comrade to deal with the one who dared to touch Meng Ning. Now he regretted signing up for this, because in his eyes, Meng Ning's boyfriend was Ling Yun. That evening, Mr. Dao visited Bo Tao's nephew to inquire about his health. Dao promised him that he would personally break the legs of Lin Yun, who stood in their way. When the nephew asked about his uncle, the young man lied, saying that he was absent because of an important meeting. In fact, Tian Bo Tao was lying in the next room because he had also suffered at the hands of Lin. Dao promised the master that Lin Yun's legs would be broken into small bones. Tian Bo Tao asked the boy to destroy the clinic and kidnap Lin's mother while he was at school. That same day, Lin's entire group gathered for dinner at his home, where Meng Ning and Ming Ling openly hated each other. After dinner, the protagonist's mother saw the guests off and told them to be careful on the way back to school. Meng Ning promised Auntie that she would personally drive Lin Yun to school in her car. Hearing this, the embittered Min Ling asked to go with Teng Meng. Suddenly, Lin asked everyone to stop as he sensed a murderous aura. The main character made his mother hide somewhere secluded and explained that someone had come to the clinic looking for trouble. Teng Meng wanted to go with him to the showdown, but he was given the task of guarding all the female representatives. Meng Ning also wanted to ask to go with Lin, but he almost immediately pushed her into the car and forced her to leave. A few minutes later, an armed group of hooligans led by Dao was already standing at the door of Lin's mother's clinic. These people were first given the order to destroy the clinic and then kidnap the hero's unfortunate mother. Lin Yun intervened in the crowd and asked to enter the clinic to watch the show. Dao let Lin pass without any interference because he was curious to see what this fat man could show them. When Lin Yun entered, he beat up the first people he came across and threw them outside into the crowd of others. Anyone who wanted to interfere with what was happening was thrown far away from the clinic. And now it was Dao's turn to come face to face with Lin, and he immediately asked for forgiveness and mercy. He was afraid that his group would be finished today if they didn't calm this guy down. Meanwhile, all the attackers were rebuilding the clinic and cleaning it clean. Dao asked for forgiveness from Lin, promising to pay him compensation in the amount of 100,000. The main character thought it was too much and hesitated, and then Dao raised the amount to 500,000. In the end, the young men agreed on 600,000, and Dao did not feel sorry for this money, because he simply wanted to save his life. Thinking that this was not enough, Ling Yun touched Dao's body, causing him to feel incredible pain. The main character promised that it wouldn't kill the guy, but that he would just experience hellish pain for a minute every night. He also said that if this company decides to bring trouble to itself next time, it will be dead. Lin Yun asked Dao to come back to him in a month, but in the meantime, he kicked him in the stomach and asked him to get out of here immediately with his people. After everyone left the clinic, Lin Yun was glad that neither his sister nor the others had seen the display of his power. When the surviving girls ran out to Lin, he realized that Meng Ning was filming what was happening on camera. Then everyone believed that Lin Yun was a real master of Chinese martial arts. Lin decided to support the newly invented legend and confessed that he had recently come across a book on martial arts. Then Lin's mother came out of the clinic and reproached him for revealing his power despite her prohibition. It turned out that his aunt had told him since childhood not to show his strength when he might get into trouble because of his large build. The mother asked her son not to be so reckless from now on, even though he did it for the sake of his family. On the way to school, Lin was thinking about his mother, who was clearly an unusual person, but it was strange that he didn't feel anything from her. Teng Meng had a chance to be alone with Ming Ling, but he didn't know how to start a conversation. Suddenly, the girl jealously asked him about Lin. How long had he known Meng Ning? Teng Meng told her that Meng Ning and Ling Yun had only met a few days ago. At school, Sister Lena found out that he was spending the night in a house he had rented nearby. She plucked a pink flower from a bush and handed it to Lin so that he would always remember her when he looked at it. After some time, Meng Ning reproached the young man that a pink rose meant a symbol of love and sympathy. The girl was wildly jealous of Lin Yun's sister, but she couldn't do anything about it. Suddenly, her car stopped, and she headed towards the same pink rose bush. She picked not just one flower, but a whole bouquet and handed it to Lin Yun. She promised the young man that if he threw away even one bud, she would bite him to death. Despite the persistence, Lin Yun liked this gesture of care, and the flowers were not bad either. After the trip, Lin Yun spent several hours cleaning the rented house. When he was completely free, he decided to take up the study of the mysterious brush. At his current level, it's hard to hurt him with normal sharp weapons. But this brush was able to injure him. When he simply touched the palm, the hand easily pierced the skin and released blood. The protagonist noticed that this relic was capable of sucking absolutely all the blood out of him and easily killing him. Luckily this time the brush absorbed some blood and recognized him as its new owner. After all this, Lin Yun finally felt a connection with the brush and a special energy from it. The boy realized that the relic could be used to draw amulets and engrave formations. It can also be used as a powerful weapon when facing an enemy. Ling Yun spent the rest of the day usefully by going for a light jog. At night, he sat down again on the riverbank, lit a fire, and began to concentrate spiritual energy within himself. He felt the peak of the 3rd level, and he was eager to check the results of this training. He didn't like that the cultivation world was not like the cultivation on Earth. He realized that with each transition to a new level of cultivation on Earth, he gained more strength. The protagonist is confident that he will not repeat the same mistake when he crosses the disaster again. He went to school, where for some reason everyone was talking about him and Chao Shan and their hugs. She told her friend that someone had posted photos online of her and Lin hugging. Chao Zham took the news calmly, and Ji noticed that her personality had changed. When Ling Yun approached the girls and wished them good morning, Cao Shan was overcome with shame. After the last conversation, she felt that she was unworthy of greeting Lin, since she had nothing in common with him. She then asked her friend if she would be jealous if another girl asked Lin Yun out on a date. The school's beauty was confident that Lin Yun would not associate with anyone other than her sister. Suddenly, a charming beauty entered the classroom, looking for Lin Yun. This was the same girl that the main character met on the riverbank. She came to Lin to give him his jacket and his ID. At first, she thought he was just a fat guy, but now she thinks he could be a real handsome man if he lost a little more weight. The main character hoped that as a sign of gratitude, the girl would give him some money, but she simply hugged him tightly. Then Lin came up with a story that evening the beauty had broken his glasses, which he was carrying as a gift to his mother. He remembered that the girl was drunk and wanted her to immediately pay him for the broken glasses. When the beauty picked up the phone, Lin already believed that she would transfer money to him, but she only suggested going for a new pair of glasses. She was busy today and suggested that Lin meet in the future, taking his phone number. When the girl saved by the young man left the school, another beauty entered the classroom, looking for him. The main character did not know who it was, but during the conversation it turned out that it was the granddaughter of the old man whom Lin saved in the accident. He hoped that at least this girl would pay him for saving his grandfather. While he was thinking about money, all the students were speechless at the sight of this beauty. Lin heard from his classmates that this goddess had an expensive car, and he figured that she would pay him a considerable sum. Then he invited the girl to sit in her car and talk in private. This Lin was very different from the guy the old man's granddaughter had imagined. In the car, Lin hinted to the girl several times that she had a great car, but the girl did not like this behavior. The granddaughter admitted that she came to the school to modestly thank the young man for saving a stranger. The protagonist hinted that people usually spend huge amounts of money to receive his highly qualified treatment. The granddaughter admitted that she could pay any price that Lin named. Adding a touch of audacity, the main character said that he wanted $1 million to save the victim. He got out of the car and reproached the lady that she did not love her grandfather since she was not ready to pay for him. Suddenly, the beauty stopped him by the hand and said that she considered her grandfather's life to be the most important thing in the whole world. She handed Lin a check for $500,000, and Lin clearly did not expect this outcome. After thinking for a bit, the beauty agreed to give Lina this wonderful, expensive car. She left without saying goodbye and brazenly slammed the car door. When Lin Yun was left inside his new car, he realized that his conscience didn't even prick his heart. He decided that he would go back to school and give this car to his sister, but he faced one difficulty, which was driving the car. He got out of the car, lifted it up with one hand, and again forgot that no one should see his abilities. Meanwhile, Ji and Chao Shan were already discussing his actions, but the school's beauty was not surprised at all. The friend believed that if Shan continued to behave like this, her lover would be taken away by another girl. The conversation between the two beauties was interrupted by the appearance of a strange guy, who was clearly from an intelligent family. In this class, everyone recognized Li Chichong, who was studying at the capital university, and who was also looking for Lin Yun. The lovers of Ling Ji and Cao Shan suddenly changed their shoes and looked at Chichong with loving eyes. When Lin Yun walked out to this young man, Meng suddenly appeared between them. It was indeed Li Chichong, who had been pursuing Meng for years, and now just wanted to look at Ling Yun. The young man asked the girl to think again about his proposal, because for her sake, he had refused many beauties of the city. Lin decided to play his role brilliantly, and reproached Li Chichong for chasing after his girlfriend. Unfortunately, his remark was heard by Ji and Cao Shan, who were shocked by the news. Li Chichong believed that Meng Ning was not so blind and could not choose him, the handsome man from the capital. Meng decided to prove the annoying suitor wrong and, reaching out to Lin, approached his lips. The main character was not against kissing this beauty, because she had long owed him a kiss for saving her grandfather. The crowd once again supported the main character, despite the fact that he had just recently hugged Shan. Chi-Chong was completely out of his mind by what was happening, and wanted to take proper revenge on Lin. He felt a sharp blow to his heart and instantly fell to the floor in front of Lin. Meng Ning knew that Chi-Chong had a congenital heart defect, so she began to blame herself for what happened. Ten Meng, who stood in the center of the crowd, came to the aid of the main character. He begged the boss to immediately save Chi-Chong since he was his childhood friend. While the main character was dealing with the victim, a company led by Tu Gan approached them. Teng Mong informed Lin that Tu Gang had come here with a group from the Green Dragon Gang. Teng Mong asked Lin to be careful with this gang, which consists of a bunch of hooligans. Teng Mong asked Ling Yun to help his friend first. Lin Yun listened to him and asked him to move away so as not to reveal the relationship. Xiao Shan also arrived at the scene, and Teng Mong forbade her to go to Ling at such a dangerous time. The hooligans surrounded Lin Yun and the injured Chi-Chong, and waited to see what would happen next. When they finally attacked Lin, they were all instantly thrown back into the far wall. The hooligans didn't even understand what had happened, because they didn't expect the fat man to deal with them so quickly. In addition to disciplining the hooligans, Lin Yun also treated the patient and gave him acupuncture. After the acupuncture session, Chi-Chong gradually came to his senses. Meng Ning immediately apologized to him for angering him with her behavior. The boy thought that he owed his salvation to Meng Ning, as if she had saved him from death. Meng pointed at Lin and said that Lin Yun had taken care of everything, but Chi-Chong felt uneasy. The protagonist asked him to lie down for a while until his pulse was fully restored. Chi-Chong couldn't believe his eyes that he was saved by his love rival, who by his actions had trampled him even further into the dirt. Suddenly, a huge man pushed aside the crowd of spectators and walked towards Lin. Teng Mong warned the boss that the person in front of him was Tae So Ho, who was one of the celebrities of the Green Dragon Gang. The young man insisted to be careful, because he had a very large body that possessed exceptional talent in martial arts. The main character himself noticed that the speed of Tae So Ho's strikes is quite high. At the beginning of the battle, Lin and his opponent praised each other for their good abilities and strength. Ling Yun decided to give Tae So Ho a chance and let him strike first without any counterattack. Shan and Ji were worried that their classmate would meet his end today. Tae So Ho didn't like that the protagonist looked down on him because of his overconfidence in his abilities. Lina was confused that Tae So Ho only had enough for one blow, but he immediately dealt another one. As the battle progressed, the protagonist noticed that this guy had a unique bone structure and talent that could be developed. He also noted that it has the potential to cultivate immortality. Lin Yun dealt some damage to Tae So Ho, but he still refused to admit defeat. Lin Yun was not against continuing the battle, but he had one condition. In case of victory, he was ready to be at Tae So Ho's disposal. If Tae So Ho loses, he will leave the Green Dragon Gang and follow Lin wholeheartedly. When Tae So Ho agreed to the terms, Lin Yun kicked him in the stomach and sent him flying to the floor. The huge fighter admitted that he would never admit defeat and asked Lin to hit him again. He endured every powerful blow from Lin and did not show an ounce of suffering. When he refused to accept defeat again, Ling Yun angrily lifted him up. He threw it at the far wall and then the man began to lose consciousness. While Tae So Ho was recovering, Lin decided to take care of Chi-Chong's treatment. He pulled out the needles from him at the right moment, but Chi-Chong thought he wanted to cause harm. After the needles were removed, Chi-Chong felt as if his whole body had relaxed and gained new life. He said that even after his grandfather's acupuncture, there was never such an effect. Despite this, Chi-Chong promised his lover that he would continue to be treated by her grandfather Shu. Meng Ning confessed to her suitor that he was completely curable, and now he would no longer need his grandfather's treatment. Yu said that Chi-Chong's heart could not be helped, and he had to avoid irritation, physical exercise, and injury. The young man had to stand aside even during the slightest fight in the yard, so Teng Meng was always by his side. Teng Meng had been dealing with bullies on Li Chi-Chong's behalf for many years. Chi-Chong thought he would have to live like this for the rest of his life. But now he is told that he is healthy. He decided to test the results of the therapy and asked Lin to hit him on the head harder. After the blow, he felt that his heart was indeed fine and did not hurt. Now the hero's heart was covered with incredible spiritual energy and was under its protection. Chi-Chong was grateful to Lin for these wonderful feelings that he had not experienced since birth. Ten realized that Boss was telling the truth, that he could cure even a congenital heart defect. He immediately thought that he could make a lot of money with Lin's abilities. Shan realized that Lin was incredible because he pacified Tae So Ho and also cured Chi-Chong of his heart disease. She suggested that the main character met people from mysterious clans and received knowledge from them. She felt uneasy because she had kept her distance from him for a long time, thinking that he was not good enough for her. Meanwhile, Tae So Ho continued to struggle with all his might to not submit to Lin Yun. Every time he got to his feet, the protagonist threw him back into the wall again and again. Lin Yun was already tired of beating up the guy, and this time he decided to come up with something more exciting. He opened the window, grabbed Tae-so-hu, and jumped out with him. Even after being on the ground from such a height, Tae-so-hu did not give up, and on the contrary, he gained the strength to fight. Then the main character grabbed the guy tighter and ran with him across the stadium at lightning speed. Only after this did Tae-so-hu admit defeat and promise that he would follow Lin everywhere. Finally, Lin used his own spiritual energy to purify his essence. Now he is not the same Tae-so-hu he used to be, as his martial arts are completely destroyed. After much torment, Lin Yun threw Tae-so-hu into the basketball hoop and went on about his business. He returned to school, where the rest of the hooligans had already woken up. He started talking about compensation, and the leader asked his subordinates to give Lin all the money to stay alive. All those present listened to their leader and asked Lin for the code to transfer millions. Despite this, the protagonist promised the guys that he would soon personally approach their boss to discuss the issue of compensation. After this, he announced that Tae-so-hu was now one of his men and no longer belonged to the Green Dragon Gang. Tae-so-hu was the future successor of the Green Dragon Gang, and the hooligans could do nothing about his betrayal. The conversation between Lin and everyone around him was interrupted by the appearance of several police cars at the school. The same beauty who came to visit Lin Yun in the morning got out of the car. Tang Meng remembered that his father had told him that an influential woman had been sent to the school to work on an important matter. Lin Yun didn't pay any attention to her, and offered Chichong to thank him with a delicious meal. Min Lin arrived at the scene, worried that the hooligans had beaten up her brother. Lin Yun invited her and everyone around him to a cafe and said that he would treat everyone at his own expense. Tang Meng hinted to Chichong that Lin meant for him to be the one to pay everyone's bill. Meanwhile, Tae-so-hu, standing in the basketball hoop, felt that his body was much stronger than ever. Tang Meng walked up to him and informed him that Lin Yun had also invited him to have lunch with the entire class. Tae-so-hu was pleased with this invitation and happily descended from the ring to the ground. Tang Meng also felt like Tae-so-hu had become much stronger after being beaten by the boss. When Lin Yang and his group went out for lunch, he was stopped by a policewoman. She announced that today's incident required Lin's cooperation in the investigation and asked him to come with her to the station. The main character denied it and said that he was not to blame for the current situation. Then an old friend grabbed his hand and asked him to simply cooperate with the investigation and give the necessary testimony. Lin Yun pulled the girl close to him and offered to take his testimony during their dinner together. The most popular figures in the school gathered in Ling Yun's district at a cafe. Meng Ning also joined the dinner, choosing to be in the company of two of the school's beauties. Shan immediately began to ask her about when she met Lin Yun. Meng admitted that it happened the day after Lin ran with a bag of sand. Shan couldn't believe that their relationship had started in just a couple of days. Meng Ning's feminine intuition kicked in, and she sensed that Chao Shan was also in love with Ling. Shun, as a police officer, began the interrogation and asked Tae-so-hu why he was hanging on the basketball backboard. She asked him to answer as honestly as possible, because this was a real police interrogation. Tae-so-hu played the fool and said that the air at high altitude was much cleaner than on the ground. Since the victim herself said so, the police had no more questions for her. Tang Meng didn't understand why Tae-so-hu responded like that, since Lin had just beaten him up and put him in the basketball hoop. Tae-so-hu was as if hypnotized because in his head there was a phrase that he should bow down to Lin. He wasn't even afraid of revenge from the Green Dragon, because the Green Dragon was no match for Lin Yun. He was confident that by following Lin Yun, he would gain more than with the Green Dragon. In turn, Li Qichong also believed that he should follow Lin Yun because he had cured his sick heart. Suddenly everyone heard thunder outside and saw a dark sky. One of the lightning bolts penetrated the window and flashed between the chandeliers. All the students present became alarmed and began to leave the dining hall. Lin Yun ordered the girls not to panic and to hide in other rooms. He asked his sister and Tae-so-ha to follow him outside. He asked Tang Meng what the highest mountain was around the nearest lake. Tang Meng replied that in Longping County there was a high point called Tiger Cliff. The protagonist decided to take 3 people with him and told Tang Meng to go to Tiger Cliff by car. For some reason, he believed that there was no time to waste and that they needed to act right now. He took his beloved sister and Meng Ning and soared into the clouds together. Even on this dangerous flight, Meng Ning didn't understand why Ling Yun would take her sister with him no matter what. Lin Yun thought that before him was a wonderful opportunity for cultivation bestowed by the heavens. Soon the heroes arrived at Tiger Rock, where lightning was flashing and the wind was howling. It was the first time the girls had seen such a natural spectacle, called a dragon whirlwind. The dragon vortex periodically appears over warm water, the upper end of which is associated with thunderclouds, and the lower end goes directly to the water. Because this whirlwind was too big, it seemed as if there was a trace of a dragon here. While the hero was thinking about this, he looked into the vortex and saw a real energy dragon in front of him. After this, a strong wind arose at the site, which threw the heroes back several meters. Lin Yun took out the relic and used the brush to absorb the spiritual energy of the phenomenon. Some of the energy was absorbed into the brush, and most of it penetrated straight into Lin Yun. Ling Yun was able to use the dragon's spiritual energy to repurify his tendons and bone marrow and completely transform his body. Luckily, he has a brush that can draw all that dragon energy out of his body by absorbing it. Otherwise, if such a huge amount of spiritual energy were to flow into his body at once, he would suffer. Lin Ming, who was standing next to him, effortlessly absorbed a bunch of dragon energy without any discomfort. Cultivation with this body type is advancing by leaps and bounds, but due to its speed, it is not entirely safe. Lin Yun promised himself that when his cultivation became strong, he would protect his sister from all threats and teach her how to cultivate. When the manifestation of spiritual energy was completed, the protagonist felt his body change. The vortex energy was able to cleanse Lin's body and burn away all of his fat in an instant. The protagonist didn't know how to tell this to others and decided to come up with some explanation. When he started making excuses, Meng Ning hugged him and said that it didn't matter how he became handsome. She leaned closer to his lips but was immediately stopped by Min Lin. Meng Ming tried to kiss the protagonist, but he clearly didn't want it. He asked his sister for help with his eyes, but she could do nothing. Suddenly, a real savior came to him in the form of a powerful and strong Tae-So Hu. Lin untied himself from the girl and called the guy to watch how the vortex sucked in energy. In an instant, the whirlwind disappeared, and a clear sky with a couple of white clouds appeared before the heroes. The main character explained to everyone that in this world there are mysterious forces that no one can see and no one can touch. The purpose for which he brought his friends to the dragon's whirlwind was to make them understand this truth. Meng Ning promised Lin that she would always follow him, but the hero pushed her away and asked her to return to school. He himself was going to save one person and repay him for his kindness. Meanwhile, the pregnant woman's husband lay unconscious in the medical clinic. The doctor told his wife that the chances were slim, and they did what they could. The wife begged the doctors to save her husband, but fortunately Lin Yun came to their aid. Seeing Lin Yun, the pregnant girl realized that God had come to her again in the form of a savior. Lin Yun asked everyone present to go out into the corridor and picked up the needles. The female doctor did not want to trust him with the patient, but the man's wife insisted that she was dealing with a real doctor. The doctor insisted that they were simply trying to deceive the woman, and that she shouldn't fall for it. Then the main character couldn't resist, leaned the doctor against the wall, and asked her to be more restrained. He sat her down next to him and allowed her to watch the process. During the acupuncture process, he told a story that he had once already cured this aunt and her child. 20 minutes after the acupuncture session, the patient came to and opened his eyes. The female doctor could not believe that the patient was able to wake up and even sit on the couch. The couple didn't know how they would thank Lin, because they had nothing left. The main character refused to pay because he had already earned a lot of money over the past 2 days. By extorting compensation, he was able to earn tens of thousands. The couple continued to think about payment, but suddenly a message came on their phone. The woman saw that a transfer of 30,000 had been received on her bank card. Compared to the cost of that magic brush, this amount was nothing to Lin. Lin asked his aunt to buy the best medicine for her husband to help him recover. After another rescue, Lin said goodbye to the couple forever and left the clinic. After he left, the couple burst into tears and decided to erect a statue for Lin Yun in their garden. On his way out of the clinic, Yun was stopped by the same angry nurse who wanted to talk to him. She invited him to go to dinner with her after her shift ended. Lin Yun casually refused her, but still took her phone number just in case. After visiting the clinic, the heroes went to the park to have some fun. In the park, Tae-So-Hu told Lin that Jufa had paid him to beat Lin. The protagonist wanted Tae-So-Hu to return to Jufei and take the remaining amount. The young man was hesitant to do such a thing, but Lin Yun taught him how to extort as much money as possible. Meanwhile, Jufei was informed that Lin Yun had thrown Tae-So-Hu into the basketball hoop and had extorted tens of thousands from the Green Dragon people. Suddenly there was a knock on their door and Tae-So-Hu arrived to talk. Jufa immediately realized that the guy came to give a deposit because of the failed mission. No one thought that he would come in and ask for part of the amount owed since he had dealt with Lin Yun. He explained that he lost to Lin the first time only to expose his weaknesses. After that, he followed him, attacked him, and made him beg for mercy on his knees after the third blow. Jufa didn't believe this nonsense, but Tae-So-Hu suggested that he go to Lin and see for himself. Jufa believed and was ready to give the remaining amount, but Tae-So-Hu doubled it. Tae-So-Hu could tell Lin that Jufa was behind this whole thing, and then he would hardly ever get out of the hospital. Without thinking twice, Jufa transferred 20,000 yuan to the hero and forgot about this conversation. Jufa admitted that he would go to Lin in the near future and come to a truce with him. As he left, Tae-Suo said that if Lin beat him up, Jufa would pay for all his medical expenses. Jufei felt this extortion was all too familiar and remembered that Lin had done exactly the same thing. Lin Yun promised his sister to come to school, and on the way he saw Zhuang Meifeng. The girl was just looking for Lin Yun and, lost in thought, ran straight into him. She told the hero in tears that all her things had been taken away from her, and she had almost nothing left. Lin Yun brought her to his home to talk about what happened in more detail. Zhuang Meifeng said that the family of the beaten boy is looking for Lin to take revenge for the accident. The Sun family had hired trained fighters that he definitely couldn't handle. Meanwhile, these fighters had already arrived at Lin Yun's house and reported to the elder that he was inside. The fighters were ordered to continue surveillance and attack Lin at the most opportune moment. Zhuang explained that the Sun family was so powerful that one casual word could ruin someone's life. Lin didn't understand why the girl didn't want to marry Sun if his family was so powerful. The girl explained that the man was a complete pervert, in whose head there was nothing but debauchery. That's the only reason she ran away from home, and all the most valuable things she built remained there. If the Sun family finds her, they will immediately kidnap her and take her back into slavery. The main character suggested that she hide in his house for now, and then he would be able to protect her. In return, he offered the girl cooking and cleaning the house, and all the female duties. During the conversation, the girl said that she could be useful, because she graduated from the University of Economics and Finance. Then the main character handed her a check as capital, and asked her to earn several million from it in a few days. Zhuang Meifeng promised to double this million within 1 month. Lin left her with these matters and went out into the street, where the fighters were already waiting for him. The female leader ordered the fighters to follow Lin on foot, without using transport. The main character immediately noticed that the fighters were not only watching him, but were also hiding in the distant bushes. The girl Xuan was ready to kill Lin to earn the promised 50 million. For that kind of money, she was ready to kill this schoolboy no matter what. The protagonist made a knight's move and lured his pursuers to Mount Lungpun. Fearing reprisals, Xuan gathered her thoughts, grabbed a knife and rushed at him. When she wanted to plunge the knife into his back, it didn't penetrate Lin even a centimeter. Her colleague decided to do the same, but did not achieve any results. Then the protagonist suddenly grabbed the man and threw him towards Xuan, buying time. The attackers flew several meters and hit a large rock with all their might. The main character took the upper hand in this situation and began to threaten the couple with a knife. Just as Xuan was about to launch a counterattack, she noticed that Ling Yun had disappeared from her sight. The main character fooled everyone and, having appeared, cut Xuan's clothes. Then her colleague was worried that he didn't have the strength to deal with this schoolboy. He wanted to run away, but Lin Yun immediately grabbed him and stabbed him in the head. Xuan realized that she and her colleagues had underestimated Lin because he had easily killed one of the strongest fighters. Lin Yun decided to spare the girl, and began to interrogate her for information about her organization. She said that there are similar organizations all over the world that are assigned a certain color depending on their level. Most often, such organizations are managed by people with a heavenly level of success. She said that she belongs to one of the largest organizations of killers, where special-level killers run the organization. At the end of the interrogation, the main character asked the girl how much money she had. He could easily kill this attacker, but it was better to keep her alive in order to learn more secrets of this world. The girl Xuan chose to be saved, and offered Lin 17 million as compensation. Lin Yun decided to first heal the girl's wounds, and then deal with the rest of the killers together with her. After a few minutes, Xuan asked the fighters to gather at the top of the road, where she was waiting for their help. She pretended that Lin Yun had attacked her, and now she couldn't walk because of the injury. As the fighters went to help her, Lin Yun appeared behind them. The traitor explained to her colleagues that failure to complete this mission would have resulted in her death in the organization anyway, so she chose to be saved in this way. Lin Yun found a gun on one of the attackers, and then the hooligans began to bow and apologize to him. The killer himself offered to give all the money to Lin so that he would spare their lives. After paying the compensation, Lin removed the restraint from them and promised that they would soon be able to move freely. He asked the boys to find him in the city in 3 months, otherwise they would die from hellish pain. After this hellish story, he picked up Xuan and brought her to his home, where Mei Feng was waiting for him. He explained to Mei Feng that this woman belonged to him, and she could protect her from any threat. Mei Feng called him into a separate room and began to harass him, showing her true feelings. The main character clearly didn't want all these kisses, and luckily, he got a call with important news. He went to save someone and left the girls alone in the house. Meanwhile, a female police officer with tears in her eyes was praying to God for help in a local bar. Half an hour ago, a terrible event took place at the Lido Hotel, and the hero clearly headed there. Several young men surrounded Shun, who was conducting her secret investigation. This film and television company lured and tortured many girls under the pretext of raising stars. And now the same fate awaited Shun, who had just had something added to her alcohol. The young men offered her one last glass, and she thought they had taken her bait. She happily drank the last of the alcohol, but things didn't go according to her plan. Her head suddenly spun, and she realized that something had been slipped into her glass of alcohol. She felt even worse, and staggering, she asked the criminals for permission to visit the toilet. She wanted to purge, but one of the producers said she could do her business right in the audition room. The men whispered in her ears that they should start listening immediately while they had enough time. A few minutes later, they escorted the girl to the right room and threw her on the floor like an animal. They left her alone for a while, and then Shun was able to call Lin Yun and ask for help. Half an hour later, the main character arrived at the hotel and was looking for the right room where Shun was. He swept away all the people in his path who prevented him from going deeper into the hotel. One of the administrators nevertheless told him the right room, and Lin found Shun in it. He was extremely angry at the offenders because they had difficulty controlling their lower male body parts. He beat them up thoroughly, threw them out into the corridor, and took the suitcase with their money with him. He believed that this money would be payment for saving this innocent girl from their hands. He promised that he would definitely contact them in the future to receive the second part of the compensation. At this time, in his house, two girls were completely alone and silently looked at each other. Zhen explained to Zhuang that she had no plans for Lin, as he was simply her master. Mei Feng trusted Zhuan because she would be comfortable living with at least one girl. Suddenly, the door opened, and everyone was shocked because Lin brought another girl on his back. He asked his girlfriends to help him get acupuncture for drug intoxication. Shun's sounds seemed too exciting to Zhuang Mei Feng, and she could hardly restrain herself. After the miraculous rescue, Lin decided to rest, and then Zhuang sat on his lap. She confessed her feelings to him, and it was the first time someone had said that to Lin after he came to this world. They were interrupted by Zhuan, who reported that the woman in the bedroom had woken up and wanted to talk to Lin alone. When Lin came to Shun, she confessed that she liked Lin very much. She explained her behavior by saying that, in accordance with her profession, she went to the bar to find evidence of a crime. Lin didn't understand how a person who couldn't protect himself wanted to protect others. If Lin didn't know how to use the needle technique, he would have used an intimate method to save Shun. Shun said that she was ready to do dirty deeds with Lin that evening. At the moment she was drugged, she promised herself that if she had sex that evening, it would only be with Lin. As of today, she is completely pure, and she would like her first time to be with Lin Yun. She confessed her sympathy to Lin with particular warmth, and the hero did not know what to do with two girls at once. Their embrace was interrupted by the appearance of Zhuan, who was furious at what was happening. She asked Lin Yun to go out and talk to this flirtatious girl face to face. Shun was curious to know what the relationship was between the two. When the girls were alone, they began to talk about Lin and the stories of how they met. Shun made up a story that Lin was her husband, whom she loved madly. Despite Lin's young age, they had already recognized each other, and so he allowed her to live under his roof. She hoped that after such stories, Shun would forget about Lin and stop pursuing him. The next day, the main character returned home after another night training. On the table, he saw a pink letter that was addressed to him. In the letter, Shun said that she was going to leave this city and leave Lin alone with his thoughts. The main character was offended because Shun was the first girl he met after he came to this earth. That same morning, Teng Meng and Tai Sohu arrived to visit Lin. They were met by two unfamiliar girls who were happy to meet him. Hearing the name Zhuang Mei Feng, Teng guessed that she might be Zhuang Meiqi's sister. The main character gathered his friends to ask where the film company might be located. The Tiso Hu gang wanted the film company to pay them protection money, but they were warned in time not to get involved with these scumbags. Teng Meng heard his father mention that this film company was based in the capital and operated under the banner of cultivating stars. The main character learned from his friends that this company is engaged in the supply of women to the capital's big shots. Lin Yun promised himself that he would go to the film and television company with his friends and put a fat end to their careers. Suddenly, Tae So-hu became more powerful and much more courageous. He believed that he had to suppress the enemy with his aura in order to collect the required amount. Upon arriving at the film company, Tae So-hu informed their receptionist that they had kidnapped his girlfriend and ruined her life. The company director came out to him and wanted to sort this issue out peacefully. The director assured the guests that his film company was legal and that they had no problems. The director decided to look into everything thoroughly and invited the guests to go to his office. While everyone was walking into the office, he asked his assistant to call as many people as possible. This whisper was heard by the main characters, who immediately became enraged and attacked the director. The director assumed that these were the personal tricks of his subordinates. He couldn't believe that his company's practice was true. If this case is handed over to the Big Eye, the capital side will definitely shift all the blame onto him, and then his life will be completely over. Tae So-hu offered the company to pay his girlfriend for emotional damages, physical injury, and loss of virginity. At that time, the workers were absolutely sure that this guy had come to blackmail them. The director offered a sum of 30,000, and Tae So-hu immediately threw him to the floor, naming a sum of 30 million. Suddenly, the office doors opened, and a group of serious people entered. Neither the protagonist nor Teng Meng had any doubt that they would be able to defeat these guys. The gang leader looked around the room and told his subordinates that something was wrong. Lin Yun promised those who entered that once they saw the blood, they would be willing to pay money. Teng Meng decided to reprimand Lin for not allowing him to prove himself and extort funds. The protagonist told his friend that in this situation it was necessary to give the main role to Tae So-hu. The guy dealt well with all the fighters attacking him and threw them into all the walls. The main character hasn't seen Tae-so-hu for only a few days, but he has already become so strong. After beating up all the hooligans, Tae-hu reprimanded the director for sending people to destroy him. The director and his secretary fell to their knees and began to apologize to Tae-so-hu, talking about compensation. After lengthy negotiations, the company transferred 50 million to Tae-so-hu's account. The protagonist demanded that the director write a promissory note, according to which the television company would be transferred to Lin if she did not pay the remaining money. He also promised that if the company continued to engage in bad behavior in the future, it would not be able to get away with monetary compensation. After visiting the TV company, the main character announced to his comrades that he now had enough money to buy a villa. He went with them to a cottage village where there were beautiful villas. Tang Meng was against the purchase, as the boss's money might not be enough, but Tae-so-hu was in favor of the villa idea. They were stopped by a lady who informed them that proof of ownership was required to visit the villas. This means that the heroes must have at least 50 million in savings in their accounts. Lin Yun then asked them to check his card, and after checking, the girls greeted the guests. Tang Meng and Ling Yun had their eye on one of the most expensive mansions, and the protagonist immediately purchased it for himself. Before buying, he decided to contact Chi Chong, who has connections to get a discount on the purchase of the house. After the first villa, Lin Yun decided to buy a second villa, and this made Tang Meng angry. The main character told his comrades that he had 80 million, and all the guys were stunned. Meanwhile, a neighbor informed Lin's mother that their building would soon be demolished. She was glad that she would have a place to live because her son bought her a 3-room apartment in the city. She was sorry that her aunt would not be able to work after the clinic was demolished and feed 2 children. Lin's mother promised that she would work hard and be able to survive even in these difficult times. Deep down, she knew that she had too much suffering to endure, and she was slowly preparing herself for it. Then an expensive yellow car pulled up to the clinic, and Lin Yun and his friends got out. The mother reproached her son for returning without warning, and Lin said that he had prepared a surprise for her. He was especially happy to tell his mother that he had brought this luxurious yellow car for her. The mother did not react to this news in any way, but the neighbor was drooling with envy. In addition, Lin Yun informed his beloved mother that he had bought 2 villas by the bay for her. He handed her 2 keys, and the woman herself had to choose which villa she would live in for the rest of her life. Lin's friends didn't understand why his mother wasn't surprised at all when she heard about the luxury car and villas. The mother's face changed dramatically and asked her son to go inside for a minute to have a serious talk. She easily accepted that her son could be a hooligan and extort money from passers-by. It was important to her that he had a steady source of income that would allow him to not worry about anything in the future. The son admitted that he plans to open a clinic in the city center in the near future and save people's lives. The aunt was worried that there would be no one to look after the clinic and asked if there was a suitable person for the role of nurse. Lin Yun remembered the girl from the clinic who left him a phone number to contact him. Overhearing the conversation, Tang Meng told Lin that he could not open a clinic without a medical license. Then the protagonist realized that he could get a license thanks to Meng Ning and her grandfather Shu. He suggested that Tang Meng take Yao Rou's girlfriend, while he himself wanted to return to school with Meng Ning. Before leaving, he asked Tae-so-hu to train even harder to become much stronger. Tang Meng didn't know who they were talking about and made inquiries that it was a nurse from a nearby clinic. He approached the girl with insolence, and she was seriously frightened by his serious appearance. When Tang Meng introduced himself as Lin's friend, the girl was upset that her lover would not come to the meeting. Ten said that the boss asked him to pick her up and bring her home to him. Deep down, the guy was offended that the opposite sex was only attracted to Lin Yun. Fortunately, in Tang Meng's heart there was only Ming Lin, who was different from all the girls in her open and pure soul. Tang Meng and his new friend arrived at the school, where they were accidentally met by Lin and Meng Ning. From the looks between Meng Ning and Yao Ru, it was clear that hostility had immediately formed between them. Meng Ning decided to take the initiative into her own hands and invited Lin Yun to karaoke for a show, bribing him with his medical license. At karaoke, the girl seriously proposed to Lin that he become her real boyfriend forever. The main character promised her that they would definitely be together in the future, but for now, he needed to think about his studies. 5 hours later, the main character finally got rid of the annoying girl and noticed that Yao was waiting for him. Before leaving for karaoke, Lin hinted to her to go home, but she didn't get the hint. She was ready to wait for him as long as circumstances required, and even these 6 hours did not become an obstacle for her. The hero realized that the girl was frozen and he decided to take her home. He brought her to her home and began to massage her feet before going to bed. During the massage, he offered her a job for which she would receive twice as much, and she happily agreed. When Lin wanted to go home after agreeing, Yao invited him to spend the night with her. She had planned to do various things with Lin, but he abruptly cut everything off. He explained to her in a soft tone that he doesn't hug or massage random girls' feet, but he shouldn't be impudent either. 3 days later, they saw each other again, and there were no misunderstandings between them. They arrived at a place that was ideal for their future clinic. Owner Van said he wanted to go to his hometown, so he was selling his business. Looking into his eyes, Lin Yun realized that he was vomiting food every night and had a terrible stomachache. According to Lin, the man can't even drink regular water. Lin was ready to cure the victim, and then the man, as a sign of gratitude, bet his entire fortune. He was ready to give this store away absolutely for free, just to stay alive. Lin first asked what the true history of this disease was. The man said that he had been working in his store for more than 10 years, and business had always been good. Last year, a new store opened across the road, also selling clothes. Due to his inexperience, the business owner was not very successful and was about to close down. At that moment, Wang suddenly realized that something was wrong with his body. At first, it was just an upset stomach, but gradually it became so painful that he could no longer sleep. He went to many hospitals, but the doctors said he was not sick, until Chinese medicine declared it was an evil spell. He guessed that the owner of the neighboring store was from China, where the technique of infecting with parasites was widespread. Wang then went to their store to talk to them, but they insisted they knew nothing. Wang's health was getting worse and worse, so he decided to go to his hometown to die there. Lin promised the man that if he listened to his advice, he would be able to get rid of the parasite once and for all. As soon as he completed the acupuncture session, the man began vomiting huge parasite larvae. When the larvae scattered all over the location, Lin Yun pierced them with golden needles. After the therapy, Mr. Wang felt his body was relaxed, and the feeling of work was gone. Unexpectedly, the culprits showed up as soon as the parasites were removed from the man's body. They yelled at the school children and asked them to mind their own business. They launched several parasites towards Lin, but the protagonist immediately fought them off with needles. Then the gang leader realized that it was Lin who helped Wang destroy all the parasites. He accused the hero of breaking the rules of the world and at the same time launched a new batch of parasites into him. The absolutely calm protagonist released the golden needles from his hands. It was strange, but the parasites were able to fly around the needles without getting hurt by them. Lin Yun had a secret weapon in the form of spiritual energy, which he used to repel the parasites. After that, he successfully dealt with both the gang leader and his subordinates. After a small fight, Lin assured the man that he did not need to sell the store, because none of the enemies would return. The man gave the store to Lin with special gratitude for saving his life. Now the issue with the clinic has been resolved, and in the future, Lin will not have to worry about money. Soon, he will be able to reach the 4th level of body cultivation, so it is time to prepare for making talismans. To make the talismans, the blood of a demonic beast is needed. But Lin is not sure that there are such beasts on this planet. This beast could be replaced with the blood of roosters and black dogs, and Lin asked his assistant to purchase these ingredients for him. If Lin had made a spiritual power-gathering talisman with the help of the beast, he wouldn't have had to rely on the sungrass. He headed to the coast to greet the herb of the 7 luminaries. Suddenly, he felt someone sneaking up on him, and turning around, he saw a spiritual fox. Taking a closer look, he realized that the little girl was seriously injured. He picked her up and felt that there were serious injuries inside her. He inserted 1 golden needle into the animal, and the fox immediately came to its senses. Suddenly, the fox became nervous and pulled Lin somewhere to the side. The hero followed her, and they came to a rocky cave. The energy in this cave was very unusual, and there was clearly something wrong with it. The protagonist thought about it and realized that this was the dragon's natural burial place. Suddenly, the protagonist's phone rang, and he was informed that Xiao felt terrible pain all over her body. Arriving home, the main character immediately helped the girl regain her strength. After this, he went to talk to Zhuang, to whom he explained that they were completely different. He explained that in the future he could save the lives of many people, and also take them away if necessary. Without thinking twice, Zhuang threw herself into Lin's arms and told him that she accepted him as he was. The young people intertwined in a kiss and spent a long time in each other's arms. Ling Yun promised Zhuang that he would protect her for the rest of his life. Suddenly, Lin Yun heard that the spiritual fox had entered the room. The fox showed with all her appearance that she wanted to stay and live with Lin. Zhuang didn't mind, since it was just an animal, not another woman. The fox would change form in the future and take on the appearance of a girl, and Lin decided that he would tell the girls about this a little later. Suddenly, Lin abruptly left the house because Cao Shan called him to talk. Shan asked Lin the first question and asked if he liked her. The main character thought all this time that the headman hated him because she was so rude to him. The girl assumed that the mentor who taught Lin to cultivate had forbidden him from having a relationship. The young man agreed, and suddenly realized that an ordinary high school girl knew about cultivation. She told him that there were and are cultivators in her family. It turns out that the likes of Lin, whom he had been looking for so long, were always near him. The girl said that there are many large families in China, some of which are hidden from the world. Non-secret clans, in addition to being rich and influential, must meet 2 conditions. First, one of the clan members must occupy an important position in the state apparatus. Shan said that her clan is not interested in power and money, and only strives for martial arts. The protagonist realized that this clan reminded him of himself because it puts cultivation above all else. The headman said that there are only 7 non-secret clans in China, one of which is the Tao family. Suddenly she changed the subject and told him, from her grandfather's words, that 18 years ago there was a scandal in the Lin family. This family offended several secret clans, which is why it was almost destroyed. The heroine guessed that Ling Yun was the lost grandson of the Ling family. The main character thought that it was all a figment of his imagination because his mother had a different last name. Then the headmistress asked Lin to enter the university immediately so that she could bring him home. In the secret room of the Lin family, another beating of the youngest was taking place. The father beat his son because he found out that the young man had found Lin and wanted to secretly kill him, but could not. The son couldn't let Lin Yun come back because his grandfather loved him more, despite the separation. The father said that the grandfather had already asked other families for help, and that Lin's whereabouts would soon become known. The boy decided to tell his grandfather the truth, that he managed to find Lin. He showed him a photo of his grandson on his phone, which showed the current Lin Yun. The grandfather promised himself that this time he would definitely bring his grandson home and make amends to him. 18 years ago, Ling Xiao fell in love with the most unsuitable woman. Everything turned out so well that he even managed to conceive an unwanted child with her. The discovery of this incident broke out. All Chinese clans in the Lin family instantly became targets. In order to avoid dragging his family into trouble, Lin announced that he was cutting ties with his family and ran away with his lover. The hunt for them continued, and by the time the Ling family arrived, the woman was gone, and only Ling Xiao was lying on the ground. The man lost the ability to practice martial arts and has since become a walking corpse. He did not leave the family until 3 months ago, when he received a letter written in blood. He read that his beloved saved their son and named him Lin Yun, just as he wanted. The old man promised himself that if anyone dared to cause trouble for Lin, he would fight them without sparing his bones. The young man was glad that he had taken the initiative and told Lin's whereabouts. He told the old man that Lin Yun was adopted as a child and was now a senior in high school. He even revealed that he was adopted by a woman named Qin, who has a daughter named Mingling. Hearing this woman's surname, the old man realized that it was a 100% coincidence, and that Ling Yun was the unwanted grandson of the past.